Chapter 366. Tit for tat. Kong Ming looked at his father, who was puzzled as well. Kong Xiaobo's father had informed Kong Xiaobo's father, so why didn't he inform Kong Xiaobo? Xiaobo, didn't your dad tell you? The resort is full, and we didn't arrange a room for you and your classmates. Kong Ming feigned innocence. How about this? Why don't you and your classmates stay at the hotel next door? There's a small hotel there. It's only 30 to 40 kuai a night. I'll reimburse you tomorrow. Oh, Xiaoming, you don't have to worry about that. We've already booked a room here. Kong Xiaobo said faintly, we don't need you to arrange it. What? Kong Ming blinked. You booked a room here? Impossible. I've booked all the rooms that are open to the public. Who are you trying to fool? Why would I lie to you? Kong Xiaobo shrugged, feeling good watching Kong Ming go crazy. Xiaobo, I know you don't want to lose face in front of your classmates, and I understand how you feel. Kong Ming's words were sincere, but he purposely raised his voice so that Lin Yi and the others could hear him. But you have to know that most of the guests for my grandpa's birthday are dignitaries. They can't even fit in the rooms, so why would there be rooms for your classmates? Plus, you're not grandpa's blood-related grandson, so there's no way they'll take care of you when arranging rooms. That's none of your concern. Kong Xiaobo wasn't angry at all. You've booked the rooms that are open to the public, but don't you have rooms that aren't open to the public as well? We've booked rooms that aren't open to the public. After that, Kong Xiaobo stopped talking to Kong Ming. He opened the railing in front of the car and got in. Xiaoming was pissed off. Perhaps it was because Xiaobo knew the staff here, or maybe he'd arranged a staff restroom for them. Still, he wasn't satisfied with letting him in just like that. Forget it. Illuminate. Kong Ming's father waved his hand. Although he also looked down on his nephew's family, as an elder, he couldn't do too much. What the hell is this? Do you think you're some big shot now? Kong Ming watched as Lin Yi's old car drove into the resort. He couldn't help but curse. Isn't it embarrassing to drive a lousy car? All right, illuminate. Your grandfather still cares about his face. Don't be too rude in front of outsiders. Anyway, he's a relative who doesn't interact with you all year round. If he wants to show off, then let him. He won't get any practical benefits anyway. Kong Ming's father, Kong Tsuepu, shook his head and smiled as he welcomed an Audi that was about to drive into the resort. CEO Wang, you're here too. After Lin Yi entered the resort, he contacted Uncle Tian. Because of Lin Yi's repeated refusal and instructions, Uncle Tian didn't come out to welcome him personally. Instead, he sent a confidant to welcome Lin Yi. However, even the confidant didn't know Lin Yi's true identity. Lin Yi wanted to keep a low profile. If he was so close to the resort's boss in a high-profile manner, it was inevitable that he would be noticed by the Kong family. This time, Lin Yi accompanied Kong Xiaobo as a bystander. His main goal was to let Xiaofan clearly see the ugly faces of Kong Ming and the others and completely erase him from her memory. If Lin Yi exposed the fact that he was close to Uncle Tian, then Kong Ming might change his attitude and purposely get close to him to flatter him. That way, Xiaofan wouldn't be able to see his true colors. Young Master Lin, hello, CEO Tian asked me to come over. A man in his 30s walked quickly to Lin Yi's car. He didn't look down on Lin Yi's old car at all. His eyes maintained a respectful expression without a trace of suspicion. I'm Li Yixuan. Young Master Lin can just call me Xiao Li. Uncle Tian must have told him the car number, so he immediately confirmed Lin Yi's identity. Mr. Li can just bring us to the villa, Lin Yi said politely. Young Master Lin, please follow me. Li Yixuan nodded. Do you want me to get in the car, or do you want to take my car? Li Yixuan said, and pointed to a business car parked not far away. Mr. Li, please get in the car. I can drive myself, Lin Yi said. Li Yixuan didn't say much. He got in the car and pointed the way to Lin Yi. It didn't take long for him to arrive in front of a villa by the seaside. This villa had the best view out of all the villas in the area. However, there was a for personal use sign at the door of the villa. It was obviously not open to the public. Young Master Lin, the villa is ready. You can move in now, Li Yishuan said, and gave Linny a name card. This is my contact number. If you need anything, young Master Lin can contact me directly. Okay, thank you. Linny took the name card and kept it. Li Yishuan didn't speak much. He nodded and left. This kind of person was important because of his style of doing things. He didn't talk much and didn't ask much. Young Master Lin? Boss, are you really a young master from a rich family? Didn't you say you only have a rich relative? Kong Xiaobo heard Li Yishuan call Lin young Master Lin. He looked at Lin excitedly. Boss, be honest. Are you the rumored rich second generation? Do I look like it? Lin smiled bitterly. Your brother is… Xiaofan? Kong Xiaobo wanted to tease him, but when he looked down, he saw that Xiaofan's face was covered in tears. He was so scared that his heart was about to explode. Xiaofan, don't cry. What's wrong? Lin and Tang Yin heard Kong Xiaobo's voice. They turned around and saw Xiaofan's tear-stained face. However, Lin and Tang Yin didn't know what to say. This was expected. Xiaofan saw Kong Mingming again. Although they didn't meet face to face, just looking at him from afar was enough to shake Xiaofan's fragile heart. At this time, only Kong Xiaobo could comfort her. Lin and Tang Yin didn't know what to say. Xiaobo, carry Xiaofan into the room and comfort her, Lin suggested. Okay. Kong Xiaobo nodded and ran into the villa with Xiaofan in his arms. Let's go in later. Lin sighed. He stopped the car in front of the villa and turned off the engine. Chapter 367. Do you dare? I hope so. Lin nodded. Every family has their own problems. Kong Xiaobo's family is very complicated, and they don't have much of a family relationship. Yeah, a rich family like that can't even compare to us poor families, Tang Yin said. They don't have that much wealth, and they don't have that many problems. Right? How's your brother's situation? Lin suddenly remembered about Tang Yun's cousin. I gave him the money, and he should have returned it already. He hasn't called in the past few days, and I've been busy with Dad's surgery with Mom. Tang Yin said, but don't worry, I'll definitely return the money to you. I don't mean for you to return the money. Don't think too much about it, and tell your brother not to feel too much pressure. Lin said, yeah. Tang Yin nodded and raised her head. You really don't need me to return it? No need. Lin said, why are you so nice to me? Tang Yun was a little agitated as she looked at Lin without blinking. Nice? It's not that nice, is it? Lin scratched his head. He couldn't take Tang Yun's direct gaze. But Tang Yun laughed out loud. It was a serious topic, but Lin Yi's words turned it into a joke. Then do you dare to be nicer to me? Tang Yin wanted to ask Lin if he wanted to be with her for the rest of his life, but Lin Yi's answer made it hard for her to continue asking. It was good that she didn't ask, though. It would save both of them from the awkwardness. Who knew what would happen in the future? For the first time, Tang Yin joked with Lin Of course, Lin nodded. Tang Yin laughed happily. Remember what you said. How will you stay at night? Lin suddenly thought of the problem of staying at night. Kong Xiaobo should be accompanying Xiaofan, then he and Tang Yun. Lin couldn't help but get excited. Could he share a room with Tang Yun? Of course, it's me and Xiaofan living together. How could Tang Yun not know what Lin was thinking? She snorted and said, don't think about those messy things. Before marriage, it's impossible. Ugh. Lin sweated. Did Tang Yun see through his thoughts just like that? However, Tang Yun thought that marriage was a bit too much. At least there were many couples living together before marriage. She was afraid that Lin would be disappointed. So she added, at least before you bring me to see your parents. It's impossible. I'm actually an orphan. Lin Yi sighed self-deprecatingly. Ah, Tang Yun widened her eyes and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. You're an orphan? Yeah. Lin Yi nodded. I don't even know who my real parents are. I'm sorry. Tang Yun didn't think that Lin Yi was an orphan. Then her words were inappropriate. I didn't know you were an orphan. I didn't say anything just now. Ah, it's fine. I'm used to it. Lin Yi shook his head indifferently. But my family has an old man who raised me up and a strict master. Speaking of which, they are my elders. I'll bring you to see them when the time comes. And Tang Yun saw that Lin Yi wasn't disappointed and secretly sighed in relief. At the same time, she was happy that Lin Yi planned to bring her to see his old man and master. Although she didn't know who these two people were, she knew that they weren't ordinary people. Otherwise, if Lin Yi was willing to bring her there, it meant that he approved of her. Tang Yun thought that Lin Yi was a rich young master, but she didn't think that he was an orphan. Although Tang Yun knew more about Lin Yi and knew that he didn't have the temperament of a rich young master, she just thought that it was because he had a good upbringing. She didn't know that his background was like this. However, Tang Yun put down the idea that Lin Yi's family was out of reach. She was afraid that Lin Yi's family was rich and wouldn't admit her relationship with Lin Yi. Now, it seemed that this worry was unnecessary. It made Tang Yun feel much better. Boss, come in. Xiao Fen is asleep. Tang Yun was thinking about Lin Yi's background when Kong Xiaobo ran out and shouted at the car. Tang Yun frowned slightly. She was getting along well with Lin Yi, but it was ruined by Kong Xiaobo. She got out of the car and glared at Kong Xiaobo. Aren't you afraid of waking Xiao Fen up by shouting so loudly? Kong Xiaobo didn't dare to talk back after being scolded by Tang Yun. He could only explain weakly. This villa is soundproof. Humph. Tang Yun snorted and ignored Kong Xiaobo. She walked in front of him and stepped on his foot. Then she walked into the villa. Kong Xiaobo didn't know what happened to Tang Yun. He looked at Lin Yi helplessly. Boss, what happened to sis-in-law? Why is she so angry? How would I know? She was about to kiss me and was interrupted by you. Lin Yi shrugged. No way. Even this was interrupted by me? It seems like I'm a sinner. Kong Xiaobo looked like he deserved it. It's over. Sister-in-law's impression of me has worsened. Lin Yi was too lazy to care about him. He locked the car and entered the villa with Kong Xiaobo. Tang Yun was sitting on the sofa in the living room. Xiao Fen was lying beside her. She hadn't woken up yet. What are we eating tonight? Lin Yi glanced at Tang Yun and asked softly. Anything. Instant noodles will do. Why don't we wait for Xiao Fen to wake up? Tang Yun looked at the time on her phone. Although it was time for dinner, it wasn't appropriate for her to eat since Xiao Fen was asleep. Xiao Fen didn't wake up until 8 o'clock at night. The fear in her heart had dissipated, and her spirit had recovered a lot. Hearing that everyone was waiting for her without eating, Xiao Fen was very touched. She said embarrassedly, I'm sorry, I made everyone worry. Xiao Fen, we are actually here to accompany you. You don't have to worry about us. Tang Yun waved her hand. We are the happiest that you can walk out of the shadow. Yeah, Xiao Fen, are you hungry? Boss has been waiting for you. Kong Xiaobo also asked. I'm fine with eating anything. Xiao Fen shook her head. Let's eat whatever there is. It's already so late, there shouldn't be anything to eat, right? Chapter 368. The troublemaker is here as for tomorrow's birthday banquet. It was an important occasion. Kong Mingming wouldn't be so rude as to make fun of Xiao Fen. Although he and Kong Xiaobo were from different branches, they were still part of the Kong family in front of outsiders. If Kong Mingming were to attack Kong Xiaobo, then he would only be a laughing stock. So tomorrow was the best time to bring Xiao Fen out and let her and Kong Mingming end things. After Kong Xiaobo gave the gift, they would leave quickly. There's instant noodles here. Let's eat first. Lin Yi opened the glass cabinet and took out the instant food. There were instant noodles, instant rice, ham sausages, and other instant food. These people weren't picky people. It didn't matter what they ate, as long as there was food to fill their stomachs. After eating the instant noodles, everyone went to rest. Tang Yun supported Xiaofan to a room upstairs, not giving Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo any chance. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't really care. He and Tang Yun weren't really in a relationship, and they didn't express anything. They were just getting closer to each other. They hadn't even kissed yet, so how could they live together? Kong Xiaobo, on the other hand, was slightly disappointed. How sad. I wanted to get closer to Xiaofan, but I don't have the chance anymore. There will be chances in the future. Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. Xiaofan's not in a good mood today. Even if you want to do something else, she probably won't be in the mood. Why don't you wait for Kong Mingming's matter to be resolved? Once it's over, Xiaofan will be able to open up her heart. Boss, you're right. I was too anxious. Kong Xiaobo sweated. I'll listen to you. Ha ha. Lin Yi laughed. Let's go. We're going to rest. With that, Lin Yi found a room downstairs and was about to enter when Kong Xiaobo followed. Boss, wait for me. Why are you following me? Lin Yi turned around and asked curiously. Ha ha. Boss, I want to sleep with you. Xiaobo said with a chuckle. Fuck. Lin Yi felt a chill. Don't you like Xiaofan? Ugh. Boss, you misunderstood. I'm very normal. I just want to chat with you. Kong Xiaobo sweated. I'm a little worried about my parents' attitude toward Xiaofan. Lin Yi realized that the guy wasn't worried about his sexual orientation. He was worried about his parents' attitude. Let's chat then. It's nothing. Lin Yi sighed. That's up to you. Fun's a good girl, but she got tricked. I'm sure your parents will understand if you tell them the truth. Yeah, I think so too, but I don't have enough confidence. I've been thinking that I'll talk to them about this when I can make a name for myself with Xiaofan and make them look at me differently, but time waits for no man. Kong Xiaobo sighed. My parents will know about my relationship with Xiaofan tomorrow. I'm afraid they'll object. It's not impossible for you to make a career. Don't worry, I'll give you a chance soon. Lin Yi was thinking about his spokesperson. It would be a good idea to push Kong Xiaobo out, especially with the fact that Kong Xiaobo was Dr. Kang's relative. Miracle Dr. Guan would be able to make a name for himself in the market. Even patients who didn't believe in Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine would think that Kong Xiaobo also had the golden creation formula after knowing about the relationship between Kong Xiaobo and Dr. Kong. Really? Kong Xiaobo's eyes lit up when he heard Lin Yi's words. He shouted excitedly, Boss, you're too good to me. Go to sleep. We need to be energetic to deal with Kong Mingming tomorrow, Lin Yi reminded him. Yes, I'll go to sleep now. Kong Xiaobo nodded and left, finding a room to sleep in. Lin Yi, Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xiaofan left the villa at 9 a.m. the next day. They still had instant noodles for breakfast. Although Li Yixuan wanted to send some food to Lin Yi, the boss didn't tell him, and Lin Yi didn't call. So Li Yixuan didn't want to disturb Lin Yi. The tit-for-tat at the entrance of the resort yesterday made Xiaoming feel like he had lost a lot of face. He was the direct descendant of Miracle Dr. Kong, and yet he couldn't deal with a side relative. This made him very angry. At night, he found a familiar waiter and asked him to find out which room Kong Xiaobo and the others were staying in. He wanted to bring his men to humiliate them, but he couldn't find out anything. He could only let them go. It was impossible for them not to show up today. It was his grandfather's birthday banquet. Kong Xiaobo and the others would definitely come. Kong Mingming brought his men to wait at the entrance of the banquet hall. When Kong Xiaobo and the others came, he would humiliate them. Do you remember what second young Master Kong said? One of Kong Mingming's men, Zhu Xiaozhang, gave a few bills to the security guards at the entrance and asked them arrogantly, I remember. Don't worry, Zhu bro. A security captain took the bills and said respectfully, "Don't call me Zhu Bro." Zhu Xiaozong glared at him. Zhu Bro and Pig Bro had the same pronunciation, which made him a little unhappy. "Call me Xiaozong Bro, understand?" Xiaozong Bro and Arrogant Bro had the same pronunciation. So Zhu Xiaozong preferred people to call him Arrogant Bro. He was Kong Mingming's #1 lackey. With Kong Mingming's name, he was indeed very arrogant. No one dared to mess with him. Yes, Arrogant Bro, the security captain quickly said. "They're here." Another of Kong Mingming's men, Wang Shubing, had sharp eyes. He saw Lin Yi's broken van driving towards them. He had already memorized the license plate number. Last night, he went back and forth to look for the van, but he couldn't find it. The security captain and the guards who were in charge of guarding the door nodded. The two understood and rushed towards the van, ready to make trouble. Lin Yi was in the van. He saw Kong Mingming and his men talking to each other. They must be planning something. He curled his lips. "Xiaobo, Kong Mingming is standing at the door. He will definitely cause trouble later. Be careful." Chapter 369. Why did she come? Chapter 369. Why did she come? And Xiaofan already knew that Kong Mingming didn't like her at all and was just playing with her. Kong Mingming would never change his mind. Although Kong Mingming's family moved from Songshan to Donghai, the two cities weren't far apart. He would have come back to see Xiaofan a long time ago if he wanted to. Why would he ignore her? The reason why Xiaofan was so determined to face Kong Xiaoming again was because she wanted to let her subconscious know that Kong Xiaoming was a bad guy. He wasn't her lover at all. Lin Yi parked the car and got out, followed by Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xiaofun. "You guys, what are you here for?" Security A pointed at Lin Yi and asked. "We're here for the birthday banquet." Kong Xiaobo suppressed his anger and looked at the three security guards. He knew that they were sent by Kong Mingming after Lin Yi's reminder. Xiaofan grabbed onto Kong Xiaobo's hand tightly, not daring to let go. She didn't even dare to look at Kong Mingming. "Birthday banquet? Where's the invitation? Take it out." Security B extended his hand and asked, "I'm here for my second grandpa's birthday banquet. Why would I need an invitation?" Kong Xiaobo frowned. "Your second grandpa? Who's your second grandpa? I think you're all liars, aren't you?" The security captain spoke up with a slanted glance. "My second grandpa is Dr. Kong." Kong Xiaobo was getting impatient. "Don't be instigated by others." "Instigate? What are you talking about?" The security captain was angered. "Look at you guys, dressed like this, wearing rags that only cost tens of kwai. Who would believe that Dr. Kong is your second grandpa, and you're here for the birthday banquet? I think you're all liars, right? Are you here to scam food and drink? Who are you calling a liar?" Kong Xiaobo was anxious. Lin Yi tugged at Kong Xiaobo, motioning him to calm down. He glanced at the security captain and said lightly, "What's your name?" "What the F***CK do you care about my name? I'm telling you, you liars should leave as soon as possible, or I'll call the police." The security captain sneered and did not answer Lin Yi's words. "Looks like I have to give brother Li Yixuan a call. Why are the security guards under him so high class? Kick the guests out?" Lin Yi shook his head in disdain and reached into his pocket. "Where did I put the business card? Oh, here it is." Seeing that Lin Yi mentioned Li Yixuan's name and really took out Li Yixuan's name card to make a call, the security captain was immediately dumbfounded. Of course, he knew what kind of person Li Yixuan was. He was the confidant of the big boss, President Tian. In this resort, when President Tian was not around, he was President Tian's spokesperson. Not to mention that he was just a small security captain. Even the security captain or the security manager was nothing in front of Li Yixuan. Previously, when he helped Kong Mingming to cause trouble for Lin Yi, The security captain was only doing it for the sake of money. But on Lin Yi's side, it was not as simple as money. If he offended Kong Mingming, at most, he would lose his money. If he offended Lin Yi, he would lose his job. Big brother, don't call. I have eyes but failed to recognize you. Please don't lower yourself to my level. The security captain was about to cry. It turned out that the person who drove the broken van was the real god. He knew Li Yixuan. Even if their relationship was not that good, and they were just friends, Li Yixuan would definitely not offend Lin Yi for a small security captain like him. In Li Yixuan's eyes, he was just an insignificant person. If he was fired, there would be too many people who would want to replace him. On the other side, on Kong Mingming's side, they did not notice the conversation between Lin Yi and the security captain. The person they were paying attention to was Xiao Fen, who was beside Kong Xiaobo. Second young Master Kong, look at the woman beside your idiot brother. Why does she look like the woman you used to play with? Zhu Xiaozong pointed at Xiao Fen and said in surprise, you don't say, but it really looks like that little slut Lan Fen. Kong Mingming also widened his eyes in disbelief. Wasn't she killed by a car? Why is she still alive? I don't know. I gave the driver 500,000 yuan to kill her. Why didn't she die? Zhu Xiaozhong also thought it was strange. I spent 500,000 yuan for nothing. Xiaozhong, don't mention this anymore. Kong Mingming glared at him. How could he casually talk about hiring someone to kill someone? Fortunately, the three of them had done bad things together, so no one could criticize each other. Zhu Xiaozong and Wang Shubing were involved in Xiao Fen's incident. It's just the three of us. Zhu Xiaozhong also felt that he had said something wrong. This matter really couldn't be casually talked about. If it was spread out, he would go to jail. But thinking about it, Xiao Fen's family didn't have much power and was extremely poor. Even if they heard this rumor, they couldn't do anything to them. Why is Xiao Fen here? Doesn't she know that I am Kong Xiaobo's brother? Kong Mingming was curious about Xiao Fen's purpose of coming here. Logically speaking, if Xiao Fen knew that he was Kong Xiaobo's cousin, she wouldn't come here to embarrass herself. He didn't think that Xiao Fen was here to cause trouble. Since she dared to come here to cause trouble, it was impossible for her to get any benefits. He wouldn't give it to her. She shouldn't be stupid. She wouldn't come here to embarrass herself, right? I was worried that I couldn't find a reason to humiliate them. Let's go and humiliate them. Zhu Xiaozong smiled and suggested, let's go and see what this bitch wants to do. Kong Mingming also wanted to see what Xiao Fen was here for. You guys move aside first. Zhu Xiaozhong waved his hand at the security team leader, indicating that there was nothing for them to do. Zhu Xiaozhong's attention was on Xiao Fen. He didn't see what happened between Lin Yi and the security team leader. He thought that they were humiliated badly. Yes. The security team leader was thinking about how to leave, but Zhu Xiaozhong came and gave him a chance to leave. If he didn't leave now, when would he leave? The security team leader quickly left with his subordinates. This kind of family's internal conflict wasn't something an outsider could participate in. Although it seemed that Kong Xiaobo's side was at a disadvantage, they actually knew Li Yixuan. The security team leader regretted it. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have gotten involved for a few hundred yuan. Chapter 370. A slap. Whether it was Kong Mingming, Zhu Xiaozhong, or Wang Shubin, they all thought that Xiao Fen came here by accident, and she didn't know that Kong Mingming would show up here. The most amazing thing was that Xiao Fen's boyfriend seemed to be Kong Xiaobo. Xiao Fen was shaking with anger after hearing Zhu Xiaozhong's words. She held onto Kong Xiaobo's hand tightly, her eyes filled with stubborn anger. Xiao Fen knew Zhu Xiaozong. He was one of Kong Mingming's followers. Back then, when she and Kong Mingming were together, he followed behind her and called her sister-in-law sweet and sweet. But now, he was calling her a bitch. I don't know you. Who are you? Xiao Fun understood Kong Mingming's feelings after hearing Zhu Xiaozhang's words. She finally gave up on Kong Mingming. If Kong Mingming had a shred of consideration for their relationship, he wouldn't have let Zhu Xiaozhang say those words. And after Zhu Xiaozhang said those words, Kong Mingming acted as if it was only natural. This meant that Kong Mingming never loved her. He was just toying with her feelings. Xiao Fan was heartbroken, but she understood that he wasn't her lover. He was a demon. Xiao Fan believed all the rumors she heard before. It was said that Kong Mingming changed girlfriends as fast as he changed clothes. She didn't believe it at first, but looking at his face right now, she had to believe it. Do you think that you can't admit what happened in the past just because you climbed up a high branch? Zhu Xiaozhang looked at Kong Xiaobo with a grin. Kid, did she trick you? Don't you know she's a second-hand trash? Our second young Master Kong played with her until she was ruined. And you picked her up and treated her like a treasure? Yeah, Xiaobo, this woman was left behind after I played with her. How could you pick her up? If my uncle found out, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? Kong Mingming walked over with a kind look and said to Kong Xiaobo, don't be fascinated by this woman just because she looks pure. Kong Mingming, you're shameless. Xiao Fan was shaking with anger as she pointed at Kong Mingming. Xiao Fan never thought that Kong Mingming would be so shameless. Not only did he dump her, he even slandered her. I'm shameless? I don't think so. Kong Mingming shrugged. Some people like to be played by others. Who is to blame? I'm just reminding my brother not to be tricked by some bitch. Enough. Seeing that Xiao Fan was about to cry, Kong Xiaobo suddenly roared, Kong Mingming, you'll die a horrible death. How can you say that about Xiao Fan? You're her first love. She loved you deeply and gave everything to you. How can you say that about her? Do you still have a conscience? Ha! You don't even call me cousin because of a bitch? You even called me by my name? Kong Mingming sneered. Her first love? So what? Who asked her to be a fool? I'm tired of playing with her. So naturally, I don't want her anymore. Am I supposed to raise her all the time? Although my family is rich, the number of women that I dumped is at least 80. If I bring all of them home to raise, I'll be poor. Hearing Kong Mingming's shameless words, Xiao Fan finally couldn't hold back her tears. He was too shameless, destroying the last bit of hope in Xiao Fan's heart. Even if he calmly said that he didn't like her anymore, so they broke up, Xiao Fan could still accept it. But Kong Mingming said that she was a fool. He said that she gave everything for him, was a fool. Xiao Fan cried. She cried sadly. How can you say that? I already knew that you're not a good person. I should have forcefully broken you guys up. Tang Yun was infuriated as well. She pointed at Kong Xiaoming, the heartless bastard, and couldn't help but curse. You are too wicked. I was wondering who it was. Isn't this Tang Yun? I haven't seen you for a few years. You've gotten prettier? Why? Is this your boyfriend? He's just S.O.O. Kong Mingming glanced at Lin Yi with a hint of jealousy. Back then, he failed to pursue Tang Yun, so he changed to pursue Xiao Fan. He was still brooding over the fact that he didn't get Tang Yun. Driving this broken car is really degrading. Tang Yun, I didn't expect your taste to be so bad. That's right. Follow our second young Master Kong. I'll buy you a 200,000 yuan car tomorrow. Zhu Xiaozhang jumped out and promised to Tang Yun, you won't have a future if you follow this idiot. Lin Yi didn't want to get involved in Kong Xiaobo's family business. No matter what, it was his family business. Letting him settle it himself was the best solution. Lin Yi was only a bystander. He only needed to watch Xiao Fan's illness. But he did not expect that this Zhu Xiaozhang diverted the trouble to someone else and bullied his head. If Lin Yi could endure being called a idiot, he wouldn't be Lin Yi. Pa! A crisp slap flew over, causing Zhu Xiaozhang to stumble on the ground. Zhu Xiaozhang cried out in pain. He spun 3 times on the ground and spat out 2 bloody teeth. His cheeks instantly swelled up like a steamed bun. Security, Security. Arrest them. Xiaozong was stunned by the slap, and when he came back to his senses, he started yelling incoherently. How dare Lin Yi hit him? The security captain was hiding far away, watching the confrontation between the two groups of House Kong. He wanted to watch the show, but he didn't think that Zhu Xiaozong would get slapped by Lin Yi. That wasn't a big deal. But the problem was that Zhu Xiaozong called for security after getting slapped. The security captain was in a difficult position. He regretted not running far away. Now he was in a dilemma. If he went, he would definitely offend Lin Yi. He didn't know what kind of relationship this guy had with Li Yixuan. Offending him wouldn't end well, but they couldn't ignore Zhu Xiaozhong's call. They had just received a few hundred kuai in tips from Zhu Xiaozong. It wouldn't be right to turn their backs on him so quickly. Moreover, Zhu Xiaozong was staring at them. As the security guards of the resort, they had to show up. Just as the security captain was in a dilemma, another group of security guards ran over. One of them was a fat security captain. When he heard Zhu Xiaozhong's call for help, he rushed over. "Brother Xiaozhong, what's wrong?" This fat security captain was called Zhong Dingwei. He was the captain in charge of the banquet hall security. He had received a 2,000 kuai red packet from the Kong family, so he did his best for the Kong family. Chapter 371. Another slap. That kid, he hit me. Take him to the security room and teach him a lesson. Zhu Xiaozhong held his cheek as he mumbled, "He's here to cause trouble." Zhu Xiaozhong was furious, but no one had dared to hit him since he'd been a lackey for Kong Mingming for so many years. As the saying goes, you need to look at the owner before you hit a dog. Naturally, people had to give face to Kong Mingming. But he wasn't an idiot. He only told the security to take Lin Yi away, not Kong Xiaobo. No matter what, Kong Xiaobo was still a member of House Kong. Humiliating him was fine, but beating him up would be a big deal. It'd be hard to explain it to Dr. Kong. If he asked, everyone knew that Dr. Kong cared about his face the most. Putting aside how he treated Kong Xiaobo's family in private, he still had to act respectfully on the surface. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited Kong Xiaobo's family to his birthday party. The captain of the security team, Zhong Dingwei, looked at Lin Yi as he made up his mind. The kid's clothes were all cheap, and he didn't look like he had any background or status. "Kid, how dare you cause trouble in Moon on the sea resort? You've got guts. Come with us." Lin Yi. Tang Yin was a little nervous. She pulled on Lin Yi's arm, not wanting him to leave. Although Lin Yi had beaten up the Big Four in school, that was still a school. They were in society now, and these security guards clearly didn't have good intentions. Would Lin Yi be able to come back if he went with them? Lin Yi squeezed Tang Yin's hand and whispered into her ear, "It'll be fine. Don't forget that I know their boss." Tang Yin's ears went soft from Lin Yi's whispers. She blushed and looked at him. Even at a time like this, he still didn't forget to play tricks on her. Lin Yi was right. He knew the boss here. What was there to be afraid of? Zhong Dingwei saw that Lin Yi was ignoring him and whispering to the girl beside him. His face darkened. This was provocation and contempt. "You think you're awesome? I'm talking to you. Didn't you hear me?" Zhong Dingwei reached out to pull Lin Yi's collar, but Lin Yi pushed him aside. "Where did the dog come from? Are you retarded? Which eye of yours saw me hit him? I'd say he hit himself." Lin Yi laughed coldly. His eyes suddenly turned to where the security captain was hiding. "Don't you think so?" The captain didn't get along with Zhong Dingwei. He wanted to see Zhong Dingwei make a fool of himself. He didn't think that Lin Yi would ask him to come out and testify. Cold sweat formed on the captain's forehead. He didn't dare offend Lin Yi, but he just accepted Zhu Xiaozhong's money. He'd be offending both sides if he kept his mouth shut, and wouldn't be getting any favors from either side. The captain made up his mind. He already had a grudge against Zhong Dingwei. So what if he helped Lin Yi testify? Hence he rushed out and pointed at Zhu Xiaozong. "I saw it. He hit himself." Zhong Dingwei, you're the captain of the banquet hall. I'm in charge of the security outside. Why are you sticking your nose in? Zhong Dingwei blinked. Zhu Xiaozhong hit himself? Is this for real? However, when he saw Zhu Xiaozhong's vicious eyes, he understood. Zhu Xiaozhong definitely didn't hit himself. Who would be so stupid as to hit themselves for fun? Old Sway, this has nothing to do with you. Do you want to testify? Do you know who Mr. Zhu Xiaozong is? He's second young Master Kang's. Before Zhong Dingwei finished, he was interrupted by Lin Yi. It's just a dog. Lin Yi curled his lips. Ha ha. Kong Xiaobo laughed. In this situation, Lin Yi still dared to make such a joke. This made Kong Xiaobo feel very refreshed. All this time, Kong Xiaoming had always been the one suppressing him, but now the people on his side were being trampled by Lin Yi. The most amazing thing was that someone came to testify. Zhu Xiaozhong's face turned the color of pig liver. Kong Mingming's face didn't look too good either. He didn't know where this Lin Yi came from. How could he make Old Sway, the captain of the security team, betray him? Kid, who the F***CK are you? Do you believe that I won't let you leave Moon on the Sea? Zhu Xiaozong was going crazy. When had he ever been humiliated like this? He came here to humiliate Kong Xiaobo and Lanfen. He didn't expect to be humiliated by someone else. If he didn't get his revenge, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in the upper class of Donghai. Slap. It was another loud slap, but this time, no one saw Lin Yi make a move. This time, Zhu Xiaozhong's swollen face was on the right side. According to the palm print, he was hit with his left hand. But now, Lin Yi's left hand was holding Tang Yun's hand. You dare hit me? Captain Zhong, did you see this? He was the one who hit me. Hurry up and bring him back. We have a witness here. Let's see if he still won't admit it. Zhu Xiaozhong bared his fangs and brandished his claws as he yelled, All of you keep an eye on him. I'll teach him a lesson after the banquet ends. But this time, Kong Mingming and Wang Shubin didn't speak up for Zhu Xiaozhong. Zhong Dingwei, on the other hand, was stunned. The first slap was indeed from Lin Yi, but who was the one who did the second slap? Lin Yi's left hand was holding Tang Yun's hand. This was a fact that everyone saw. Plus, no one saw him make a move. What's wrong with you guys? Zhu Xiaozong waited for a while, but Zhong Dingwei didn't move. Kong Mingming and Wang Shubin didn't say anything either. He felt that something was wrong. You really are a lackey. You only have the IQ of a dog. Lin Yi looked at Zhu Xiaozhong with sympathy. You're starting to get delusional. There are so many people here, and no one saw me hit you. But you're saying that I hit you. You're hopeless. I suggest you buy some retarded pills. Maybe it will increase your IQ. Ha ha ha. Xiaobo started laughing heartily. He'd never felt so proud of himself before, and seeing Zhu Xiaozong and the others get humiliated was incredibly satisfying. Even Fun, who'd been crying a while ago, had a smile on her face. She, too, felt like she'd vented her anger. Chapter 372. Suffering in silence. Tang Yun had thought that it was just her imagination, but it seemed like that wasn't the case. Lin Yi had made his move, but it was too fast and too ingenious. No one saw how he did it. Tang Yun was pleasantly surprised. She blamed Lin Yi for being so evil, making Zhu Xiaozhong suffer in silence. It's your doing, right? Xiaozong didn't believe that Lin Yi wasn't the one who hit him. His face was swollen. Captain Zhong, pull out the recording and see if it's him. Xiaozhong wasn't that stupid. He was furious, but he still thought of using the recording as evidence. I'm sorry, but I'm the one in charge of the security at the entrance. I refuse your request. Old Sway was already standing firmly on Lin Yi's side, so he had to go all the way. There's so many people here, and none of them saw this Mr. Hit someone. Your request is unreasonable. Are you saying that we're all blind? Xiaozong, of course, wasn't calling him blind. Even if he did, he wouldn't say it out loud. He was only suspecting that Lin Yi had used some sort of distraction tactic to achieve his goal. Old Sui, you're here to protect these troublemakers, aren't you? Dingwei couldn't find any evidence, but he couldn't just ignore what was happening in front of him. He had to start from another angle. I'm just telling the truth. I really didn't see anything, and neither did you. Old Sui said faintly, All right, Old Sui. Don't you know that Mr. Zhu and Master Kong are our honored guests? Li Bro specifically told us to ensure their safety. Now that Xiaozhong Bro is in trouble in your turf, I'd like to see how Li Bro is going to handle this. Dingwei pulled out his walkie-talkie and pressed a few numbers and a call button. He and Old Sui were of the same rank, both security captains. They didn't have any direct superiors or subordinates, so Old Sui could only use his superiors to pressure him. Whatever. When Old Sui heard that Zhong Dingwei was looking for Yixuan, he was overjoyed. He was afraid that Old Sui would not look for him. Now that Yixuan was here, and he knew Lin Yi, things would be easier. Dingwei Zhong thought that Lao Sui was being stubborn. He sneered and said to the walkie-talkie, Brother Li, there are some problems at the entrance of the banquet hall. Someone is beating up our VIP, and Captain Sui is covering for him. Okay, I will wait for you. After Zhong Dingwei finished, he looked at Old Sui proudly and thought to himself, Let's see how you die. When Li Yixuan heard that someone was beating up a VIP, he didn't dare to delay, and immediately rushed over on his electric scooter. However, when he got off the scooter, he saw Lin Yi. Li Yixuan hesitated for a moment before deciding to greet Lin Yi first. Lin Yi was someone that President Tian had specially briefed several times. Li Yixuan naturally knew that if he wasn't an important person or had a close relationship with President Tian would not have briefed him so many times. Mr. Lin, you're here too. Li Yixuan walked over quickly and politely extended his hand to Lin Yi. Lin Yi extended his hand and shook Li Yixuan's hand casually. I'm accompanying a buddy to his second grandfather's birthday banquet. Li Yixuan nodded and said politely, Mr. Lin, please go ahead. If you have any instructions, just give me a call. Li Yixuan thought that Lin Yi was just passing by and wanted to enter the banquet hall, so he didn't pay much attention. However, Li Yixuan's words shocked everyone present, including the security captain, Dingwei Zhong. He finally understood why Old Sui lied through his teeth and stood firmly on Lin Yi's side. He knew that Lin Yi was Li Yixuan's real VIP. From Li Yixuan's words, his attitude towards Lin Yi could be seen. Dingwei Zhong looked at Old Sui's bright smile and wanted to punch him. He had been tricked by Old Sui. It wasn't worth it for him to stand out like this. He had pleased Zhu Xiaozong, but he had offended Li Yixuan. Little Zhong, what's going on? Who beat up a VIP? Li Yixuan asked Dingwei Zhong after he and Lin Yi exchanged greetings. Brother Li, it's like this. This Zhu Xiaozong guy said that I beat him, but I didn't. Everyone saw it clearly. But this Captain Zhong also said that I beat Zhu Xiaozong. Lin Yi said plainly. Oh. Li Yixuan was stunned. He didn't expect this to be related to Lin Yi. I can testify that Mr. Lin didn't beat Zhu Xiaozong. Everyone here saw it. Brother Li, you can ask the crowd. Old Sui said confidently. Lin Yi did slap Zhu Xiaozong, but there was no one at the banquet hall. Dingwei wasn't there either. As long as Lin Yi didn't admit it, no one would testify for him. But the second slap was not only witnessed by Dingwei Zhong, but also by the crowd. No matter who was asked, they could all testify that Lin Yi didn't beat Zhu Xiaozong. Little Zhong, what's going on? Brother Li's face darkened. Although he felt that there was a problem, Old Sui's words were most likely credible. Seeing that the crowd didn't refute him, he was even more convinced that Dingwei Zhong was lying. Maybe I saw it wrong. How could Dingwei not understand the situation? If he still dared to help Zhu Xiaozhang, he would be offending Li Yixuan. Ding Weizhong, IF asterisk king, gave you 2,000 yuan, and you're saying you saw it wrong? Zhu Xiaozhang exploded. He was hit, but no one believed him. His face was swollen like a bun, but no one believed him. Was there anything more painful than this in the world? Was there? Was there? Oh. The crowd of onlookers burst into laughter. Zhu Xiaozhang didn't shout about the inside story. Although they didn't see how Lin Yi hit Zhu Xiaozhang's face was indeed swollen. Some people still suspected that Lin Yi did something to it. But now that Zhu Xiaozhang was yelling like this, there was no doubt that Zhu Xiaozhang was the one who bribed Zhong Dingwei, and that he was beating himself up. Li Yixuan's gloomy gaze stopped on Dingwei Zhong's face. Go back to the security office and write a self-reflection. If you can't do it, then get out. How could Dingwei dare to say no? He ran away with his tail between his legs, leaving the furious Zhu Xiaozhang behind. Chapter 373. The first round, Kong Mingming knew that he'd be humiliated if he kept this up. There were a lot of onlookers already, and they could prove that Lin Yi didn't hit Zhu Xiaozhang. It was hard to say how Zhu Xiaozhang's face got swollen. Kong Mingming suspected that Lin Yi was behind this, but he couldn't do anything without evidence. If Lin Yi didn't know Li Yixuan, it'd be easier. He could just find an excuse and let the security take him away. But Lin Yi knew Li Yixuan, and from the looks of it, they were close. Lin Yi, right? I'll remember you. Kong Mingming glared at Lin Yi, then at Kong Xiaobo and Lan Fun. You're standing up for them, aren't you? I hope you don't regret this. Ha! Some people have done things they shouldn't. I wonder if they regret it now. Lin Yi smiled, not taking Kong Mingming's threat to heart. Let's go. Kong Xiaoming waved his hand and left with Zhu Xiaozhang and Wang Shubin. They walked towards the banquet hall unwillingly. Kong Xiaobo really wanted to wave his hands and shout "Long live the king" 3 times. He thought that today's meeting with Kong Mingming would be difficult, full of humiliation and helplessness. Kong Xiaobo was prepared to endure everything. After all, this was Kong Mingming's turf, and he wasn't Kong Mingming's opponent. He knew that the weak couldn't win against the strong. But he didn't expect that in the first round of battle with Kong Mingming, his side would gain the upper hand. Kong Mingming had to suffer in silence, and he left with his tail between his legs. Xiao Fun, did you see boss's power? With him around, we won't suffer any losses, Kong Xiaobo firmly said as he held on to Xiao Fun's hand, and Xiao Fun had completely given up on Kong Mingming. When she saw Kong Ming's ugly face, Xiao Fun felt a sense of relief. She felt that it wasn't worth it for her to be so haggard all these years. She felt that her actions of jumping off the building were laughable. How could she have fallen in love with such a cruel and unscrupulous person? At this moment, Xiao Fun had walked out of the shadow in her heart. She could face her life bravely in the future, because Kong Mingming wasn't worth her sacrifice. She could only pretend that she was blind. Seeing the smile on Xiao Fun's face, Kong Xiaobo let out a breath of relief. Tang Yun was also happy for her. Xiao Fun, have you thought it through? Yes, I've thought it through. I was too stupid in the past. Xiao Fun shook her head in self-mockery. This kind of person, how can I like this kind of person? I should cherish what I have now. As she spoke, Xiao Fun held on to Kong Xiaobo's hand even tighter. Kong Xiaobo was instantly excited. In the past, although he and Xiao Fun had feelings for each other, and they both acknowledged their relationship, Kong Xiaobo knew that there was always a shadow in Xiao Fun's heart, and that was Kong Mingming. If he didn't get over this, he would always be Kong Mingming's substitute. This made Kong Xiaobo very uncomfortable, and it was also the reason why he insisted on bringing Xiao Fun to see Kong Mingming. But at this moment, Kong Xiaobo knew that Xiao Fun had already confessed to him and expressed her feelings. How could Kong Xiaobo not be excited? Young Master Lin, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Call me if there's anything. Li Yixuan saw that there was nothing else for him to do, so he nodded to Lin Yi and said politely. Lin Yi nodded. Sorry to trouble you. Brother Li Yixuan gestured that it was nothing and left on the electric scooter. Lin Yi, Tang Yun, Kong Xiaobo, and Xiao Fan walked into the banquet hall, and the crowd followed them. Among these people, there were people who knew Kong Xiaobo and Kong Ming and knew that they were cousins. They only treated the conflict between the younger generation of the Kong family as a joke. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet was a Western-style buffet. Kong Xiaobo brought Lin Yi to a corner of the banquet hall. Actually, the purpose of this time was achieved. Xiao Fan saw Kong Mingming's true colors and let her walk out of the shadow in her heart, allowing her to have a new life. After entering the banquet hall, Xiao Fan's mood was a little down. She must have been affected by the previous incident. Although she was completely disappointed in Kong Mingming, anyone who encountered such an incident would feel bad, especially after being stupid for so many years, persevering for so many years, and in the end, it was all for naught. Anyone would feel uncomfortable. Tang Yun persuaded Xiao Fan softly, but this kind of thing didn't need anyone to persuade her. She would be fine after a few days. Boss, since we're here, it's not good for us to leave immediately. But after the younger generation celebrates the birthday, we can leave directly. I don't want to stay here for another minute. Kong Xiaobo was extremely disgusted with Kong Mingming's face. Is that person your father? Lin Yi didn't answer Kong Xiaobo's question. Instead, he pointed at a middle-aged man not far away. Beside him was Kong Mingming, who was gesticulating and saying something. It's my dad, but what is Kong Mingming doing? Kong Xiaobo was stunned. He didn't understand why Kong Mingming went to look for his father. Could it be that he went to complain? Kong Mingming couldn't be such a coward, right? After being humiliated at the entrance, he went to complain to the adults? I'm guessing that it's about Xiao Fan. Lin Yi frowned. I didn't expect Kong Mingming to be so mean. He actually went to your dad and said bad things about Xiao Fan. F***CK, his 18 generations of ancestors. Kong Xiaobo was furious. If what Lin Yi said was true, then wasn't Kong Mingming a little too despicable? His 18 generations of ancestors. Isn't it your 18 generations of ancestors? Lin Yi smiled. Actually, it's nothing. You should think about it. You will have to tell your parents about this matter sooner or later. After he said this, you can tell your parents about Xiao Fan's experience. I think they aren't unreasonable people. Lin Yi saw that Kong Xiaobo's father was a good person. Although he wanted to save some face, he wasn't a cold-hearted bad person. As long as he was reasonable and moved by his emotions, it wouldn't be difficult for him to accept Xiao Fan. Really? Kong Xiaobo heard Lin Yi's words and was overjoyed. Bro, you aren't lying to me, right? Why would I lie to you? Lin Yi shook his head. If it doesn't work, I can help you. Lin Yi's understanding of people's hearts was very accurate. He could help Kong Xiaobo. Chapter 374. Too bad it's fake. As expected, Kong Xiaobo's father frowned as he looked at Kong Xiaobo's side. He couldn't help but frown when he saw the 2 boys and 2 girls. He didn't think too much about it before. It was normal for his son to bring his classmates to the banquet, but 2 boys and 2 girls? That was a little too obvious. Kong Fu also suspected that there were 2 couples after hearing Kong Mingming's words. Did his son learn bad things? But Mr. Kong couldn't ask Xiaobo about it in front of everyone, and he knew that his nephew wasn't doing this out of goodwill. He tried so hard to stop Xiaobo and his classmate from staying at the hotel, after all, and there had to be some sort of grudge between them. It seemed that the grudge was with the girl beside his son. As for the girl shamelessly seducing this and that, Kong Fu was skeptical. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet officially started at 10 in the morning, and Lin Yi saw a few familiar faces. There was Lu Tianyi and Guan Shuamin, both of them sitting at a table and chatting. Dr. Kang's eldest son, the current head of Dr. Kang's group, Kang Guifeng, was also sitting at their table, chatting with the two of them. Lin Yi didn't go over to greet them. He hid in the corner, waiting for the banquet to start. Kang Xiaobo gave his gift and left. It seemed that after he created the Miracle Dr. Guan brand, it was inevitable that he would become Dr. Kang's competitor. He didn't have to worry about anything anymore. Judging from Kang Xiaobo's current situation, there was no way he could get back together with Kang Mingming's family, at least not with Xiaofan around. Amidst the impassioned speech of the MC and the applause of the guests, Dr. Kang slowly walked out. This was an old man with a rather dignified appearance. He was dressed in a red Han costume and had the temperament of an ancient Chinese medicine practitioner, although it was a little speechless to become a leading enterprise in the domestic pharmaceutical industry because of a magical prescription. It was undeniable that Dr. Kang's golden creation did have a magical effect. Of course, many old people in the medical field didn't care much about Dr. Kang because, in their opinion, Dr. Kang couldn't be called a miracle doctor at all. They didn't know where he got a good prescription from, which made him the Dr. Kang of today. Looking at the other medicines produced by his company, they were nothing more than common medicines for common colds, headaches, and fever. The formulas were all open to the public, and there was nothing special about them. If it weren't for his golden creation medicine's reputation, he might not even be able to sell his home medicine. But he was lucky. With the red medicine, no matter what he produced later on, even if it was a normal medicine, it would still sell well. That was why he was able to create such a colossus like Dr. Kang's medical group in a short period of time. In fact, many people knew that Dr. Kang's medical skills weren't great. Thank you, guests, for coming to Dr. Kang's 62nd birthday. Next, we will send our blessings from Dr. Kang's descendants. The MC started the first procedure of the birthday banquet, which was to let the descendants present their gifts. After the descendants had presented their gifts, it would be the turn of the famous people in the society and Dr. Kang's friends. As for the others, they wouldn't have the chance to present their gifts on stage and could only place their gifts at the registration counter at the entrance. The first to go on stage was Dr. Kang's eldest son, Kang Guifeng. He walked up the stage with his head held high, holding a red brocade box in his hand. The packaging was exquisite. "Dad, I'm giving you 100-year Tianshan snow lotus." His eldest son, Kang Guifeng, presented the brocade box with both hands and said respectfully, "I wish Dad a long and healthy life." "Good, very good. Bring it over and let me have a look." Dr. Kang ordered the MC. The MC quickly presented the brocade box to Dr. Kang. He opened it, and there was indeed 100-year Tianshan snow lotus in it. Looking at its size, even if it wasn't 100-year Tianshan snow lotus, it was at least 70 or 80 years old. Wow, everyone was excited. As expected of a family of miracle doctors, even their birthday gifts were rare treasures. After the eldest son, Kang Guifeng, left the stage, it was his youngest son, Kang Tsuepu, who presented his gift. He was holding a similar brocade box in his hand. It was incomparably beautiful. "Dad, I'm giving you 1,000-year ginseng. It has already begun to take human form. This is a wild ginseng that I've sent people to search the mountains for 3 years and 3 months. Kang Tsuepu presented the brocade box with both hands and said respectfully, "I wish Dad a long and happy life." "Good, good, good." Dr. Kang said "good" 3 times in a row. He gestured to the MC and said, "Let me have a look. I want to see what 1,000-year ginseng looks like." His eldest son, Kang Guifeng, presented 100-year Tianshan snow lotus. It was already rare, but this 1,000-year ginseng was even rarer. How could Dr. Kang not be excited? The MC quickly presented the brocade box to Dr. Kang. Dr. Kong opened the brocade box, and there was indeed a huge ginseng inside. It had already grown into human form. Although he didn't know if it was a 1,000-year ginseng, it was indeed a rare treasure. All the guests gasped as they looked at the ginseng in Miracle Dr. Kang's hands enviously, congratulating him nonstop. "Your uncle really knows how to curry favor. He gave me a ginseng, but it's fake. It seems like he's the same as that Kong Ming Ming, a master of swindling people." Lin Yi's voice wasn't loud. He was only talking to Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xiaofan. However, the guests nearby heard it. "Fake? Is it real?" The guests nearby heard Lin Yi's words and were in an uproar. They couldn't help but look at Lin Yi. If these people didn't pay attention, things would have been fine. But the noise was heard by Kong Tsuepu, and he looked at Lin Yi's direction with a cold, unfriendly gaze. However, Kong Tsuepu didn't say anything. He signaled his son, Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming immediately jumped out and pointed at Lin Yi. "Where did this guy come from? What fake? How can this ginseng be fake?" Seeing Kong Ming Ming jump out in such a hurry, Lin Yi smiled faintly. Since it's artificially cultivated, it's naturally fake. Not to mention a 1,000-year ginseng, it's not even 10 years old. Lin Yi didn't want to interfere with Kong Xiaobo's family matters. However, this Kong Ming Ming was too despicable. Lin Yi didn't mind mocking him a bit. He wanted to embarrass him and his father. "Guards, throw him out for me. How dare he cause trouble at Grandpa's birthday banquet?" Kong Ming Ming roared angrily. The security guards in the banquet hall knew about the relationship between Lin Yi and Li Yixuan. Although they heard Kong Ming Ming's order, they didn't dare to make a move. Chapter 375. How embarrassing! Although he didn't know much about ginseng, he didn't really trust his youngest son. His youngest son never did proper work, never went to the company, and used the dividends from the shares to eat, drink, and gamble. His grandson was just like him. What kind of 1,000-year-old ginseng could he dig up? Even Dr. Kong himself didn't believe it. But whether it was real or fake, this was his son's sincerity. Even if it was fake, he couldn't show it in front of outsiders. If there was anything, it should be discussed behind closed doors. Now that an outsider like Lin Yi had said it out loud, Dr. Kong felt like he had lost a lot of face. "Kid, why do you say this ginseng is fake?" Although Dr. Kang's voice was a little angry, he still maintained a calm demeanor. "If you're just spouting nonsense, then apologize, and I'll pretend I didn't hear it. But if you don't, then I'm sorry, we don't welcome you here." Dr. Kang's words were reasonable, and no one could find fault with them. Instead, they felt that he was very magnanimous. Lin Yi had embarrassed them like this, and Dr. Kong only wanted Lin Yi to apologize. Lin Yi didn't expect these people to have such a big reaction. Even the old Dr. Kong had jumped out. It seemed that if he didn't say a few words, he would implicate Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi could only stand up and explain helplessly. Wild ginseng has a long reed head and dense reed bowls. The ginseng body is the same length as the root. It has a human shape and a horizontal body. The horizontal lines on the main root are fine and clear. The color is darker, and the skin is thin and tough. There are many obvious pearl bumps. The cultivated ginseng is called garden ginseng. It has a short reed head and few reed bowls. The ginseng body is cylindrical, and the horizontal lines on the main root are sparse and discontinuous. The skin is thick and brittle, and the pearl bumps are not obvious. As for the authenticity of this ginseng, I think there should be experts in this field. Dr. Kong doesn't know, but there should be someone who knows, right? Lin Yi's words were very hurtful. It was obvious that he was mocking Dr. Kong for not knowing how to differentiate between real and fake ginseng. How could he be called a divine doctor? Dr. Kang's face changed. He didn't expect Lin Yi's words to be so logical. He thought that Lin Yi was just talking nonsense. He stood up and said something to give him a way out. But now, Dr. Kong was in a dilemma. Nonsense. Kong Ming jumped out again. Grandpa, don't listen to this guy's nonsense. He was sent here by Kong Xiaobo to cause trouble. Let's put the ginseng away and ignore him. Kong Ming's words obviously made people think that he had a guilty conscience. If the ginseng wasn't fake, he should take it out and let the experts here identify it. Why did he ask them to put it away? Kong Ming did have a guilty conscience. This ginseng was bought with his father, Kong Tsuepu. How could he not know whether it was real or fake? This ginseng was bought from an artificial farm. It only cost a few thousand yuan. How could it be 1,000-year-old ginseng? But Kong Tsuepu and Kong Ming both knew that their father didn't know whether the ginseng was real or fake. Kong Tsuepu's brother, Kong Guifeng, also didn't know. Even if Kong Guifeng guessed that it was fake, he wouldn't lose face in front of others. Besides, Kong Tsuepu only took the dividends in the company and didn't fight for power. This made Kong Guifeng have no resentment towards Kong Tsuepu. The two brothers got along well. Kong Guifeng often cleaned up after Kong Tsuepu's bad things. However, they didn't expect that Lin Yi would appear out of nowhere. Forget it. Take it away. Whether it's real or fake, it's a gift from Tsuepu. Dr. Kong was not stupid. Since Lin Yi said so, he must be confident. If he took it seriously, he would only humiliate himself. It was better to admit it generously. Anyway, others knew what kind of person his youngest son was. His reputation was already bad. It didn't matter if it was a little bit more. Dr. Kong admitted it so casually. It didn't cause any uproar. Since Dr. Kong said so, people didn't want to distinguish whether it was real or fake. Next was Kong Xiaobo's father. It was a very ordinary gift. It was just a few years old Ganoderma. Kong Tsuepu and Kong Ming had wanted to find fault with it, but it was just a few years old Ganoderma. You couldn't find any fault with a few years old Ganoderma. It wasn't a rare item in the first place. If they wanted to find fault with it, it would be like picking bones in an egg. Kong Tsuepu and Kong Ming didn't have a choice. They could only vent their anger on Kong Xiaobo later. The sons and grandsons had all given their gifts. Now it was the grandson's turn. But according to Dr. Kang's patriarchal mindset, only men were allowed to give gifts. Granddaughters couldn't go up. The first to go up was Kong Guifeng's son, Kong Xiaolong. This Kong Xiaolong looked older, around 20 years old. He wore glasses and looked like a gentleman. He held a document in his hand as he walked up steadily. Grandpa, this is a research topic I researched during my PhD studies. I've already obtained a patent for it. This is a certificate from the school. Kong Xiaolong handed the certificate over respectfully. The MC was about to take it when Dr. Kong waved his hand and walked up himself. His face was flushed, the unhappiness from before gone. Good, Xiaolong, good job. I'm very happy. With that, Miracle Dr. Kong took the certificate and looked at it with a smile. He patted Xiaolong's shoulder. Work hard. You're the next generation miracle doctor of House Kong. Xiaolong nodded. Wah wah. The audience applauded. Everyone knew that Miracle Dr. Kong was choosing his successor. Is your eldest cousin a medical student? Lin Yi was a little surprised. He didn't expect Dr. Kang's family to have someone who studied medicine. Yes, he graduated from a proper medical school and is currently studying for a PhD in traditional Chinese medicine, Kong Xiaobo introduced. Actually, he's the only one who really knows medicine. It was a little ironic and funny, but it was the truth. Lin Yi was speechless as well. Why did Miracle Dr. Kang's family seem to be so unorthodox? After that, it was Kong Xiaoming's turn. His gift was even more mysterious. He said it was some kind of ancient prescription. But with his father Kong Tsuepu's example, no one was curious anymore. It was obvious that it was fake. How could ancient prescriptions be so easily obtained? Chapter 376. I step even if Dr. Kong didn't know much about medicine. He'd read a lot of books in order not to be a laughingstock. How could such an ordinary prescription for typhoid be called an ancient prescription? What a wastrel! Dr. Kong sighed inwardly. Fortunately, Dr. Kong had his eldest son Kong Guifeng and grandson Xiaolong. At least the Kangs had a continuation, and they wouldn't fall after his death, at least until Xiaolong's generation. As for his great-grandchildren, they'd have their own destinies. Miracle Dr. Kong couldn't care less about what would happen after his death. Dr. Kong placed Kong Ming Ming's prescription under Xiaolong's certificate and nodded nonchalantly. All right, whether or not this prescription works, it's still a token of Xiao Ming's sincerity. After Kong Ming Ming left, it was Kong Xiaobo's turn to present his gift. When the MC called out Kong Xiaobo's name, Kong Xiaobo tensed up. Boss, can I do it? Sure, why not? Just go. Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder encouragingly. Kong Xiaobo nodded and walked up the stage with the antique box Lin Yi had given him. Second Grandpa, this is a rare pill called the Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing. After taking it, a large amount of impurities will be expelled from the body, cleansing the bones and marrow. After the toxins are expelled, the body's physiological functions will return to peak condition, and it'll add at least 5 to 10 years to your lifespan. Kong Xiaobo presented the box with both hands. Happy birthday, Second Grandpa. Oh. Dr. Kong frowned, displeased. As Dr. Kong, he was at the pinnacle of the medical world, and he'd never heard of something like the Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing. After eating it, it could even cleanse the marrow and reshape the bones. Could it really achieve the goal of prolonging one's life? Dr. Kong felt that if he accepted this elixir, he would lose face. As a Dr. Kong, did he still need this kind of elixir? Moreover, it sounded like an unreliable elixir. However, before Dr. Kong could speak, Kong Ming Ming jumped out and grabbed the small box in Kong Xiaobo's hand. Just as he was worrying about not being able to find a reason or excuse to attack Kong Xiaobo, this Kong Xiaobo actually took the initiative to come to him. Kong Xiaobo, don't try to mystify us. The Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing? How could this be? Do you think you're a martial arts practitioner who sells strength pills? Kong Xiaoming glared at him. What kind of person is my grandpa? It's Dr. Kong. What medicine doesn't our family have? But I've never heard of such a thing in this world. There are many things you haven't heard of. Kong Xiaobo said coldly. Humph, what kind of trash is this? Then I'll open it for everyone to see. When Kong Ming Ming heard that Kong Xiaobo still dared to argue, he was furious. You won't shed a tear until you see your coffin. Huh? As he said that, Kong Ming Ming opened the small box in Kong Xiaobo's hands and took out a black elixir. He laughed loudly. What Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing is this? It can even cleanse the marrow and reshape the bones? Have you read too many wuxia novels? Have you gone mad? Second Grandpa, I've already given you my birthday gift. Since Second Cousin doesn't believe me, I can't do anything about it. Kong Xiaobo resisted the urge to turn hostile and spoke in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. What? Feeling guilty? When Kong Ming Ming saw Kong Xiaobo's expression, he thought that he was feeling guilty. Kong Xiaobo, don't think that I don't know why you're here. Aren't you here to stand up for that B*TCH? She's trash that I've played with, and you're treating her like a treasure. You gave my grandfather a miraculous elixir that we've never heard of before. Aren't you trying to make a fool of our family? I know what you're thinking. You want people to see that our medical family hasn't seen this elixir before. That's what you're thinking, right? But you've miscalculated. My grandfather doesn't care for this trash of yours. As he said that, Kong Ming Ming threw the Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing on the ground and stomped on it. That wasn't enough. He even used the soles of his feet to grind it until it was a pile of sticky powder. All right, You've given your birthday gift. You may leave." Throughout the entire process, Dr. Kong didn't say a word. He just stood there with a dark expression. He had his suspicions. Forget Kong Xiaobo. Even his eldest son couldn't get such an elixir. So, where did Kong Xiaobo get it from? It had to be fake. He could tolerate Kong Mingming, because Kong Mingming was his own grandson. But he couldn't tolerate Kong Xiaobo. He felt that Kong Xiaobo was here to stir up trouble, especially after hearing his grandson Kong Mingming's words. So this cousin of his, Kong Xiaobo, was here to fight for a woman's affections. Nonsense. Dr. Kong snorted coldly. He looked at Kong Xiaobo's father. "You've taught your son well. Why aren't you taking him away? Why are you leaving him here to embarrass yourself?" Miracle Dr. Kong, on the other hand, didn't care about Kong Xiaoming's arrogant act of stepping on the pill. He didn't blame him either. Clearly, he was protecting him. Xiaobo's father was quite furious. It wasn't very appropriate for his son to get some elixir as a gift. But Kong Xiaoming was the one who'd been causing trouble from the beginning. How was he supposed to embarrass his son? "Xiaobo, were you bewitched by someone? Who gave you the divine expansion elixir? Apologize to your second grandpa now." Kung Fu reprimanded Kong Xiaobo. In order to give him a way out, he pushed the responsibility of the elixir to someone else. He meant that Kong Xiaobo was bewitched by someone else, and it had nothing to do with him. Impossible. How could the elixir given by Big Brother be fake? Someone was blind and didn't know what was good. Kong Xiaobo was also furious. He said stubbornly, "It's a pity that such a good thing was wasted." Kong Xiaobo trusted Lin Yi unconditionally. If Lin Yi said that it was an elixir, then he would naturally believe it was an elixir. Kong Xiaobo couldn't hold it in anymore. Now that even his father was blaming him, he finally exploded. "Xiaobo, the gift is here. Some people call themselves divine doctors, but they're just quacks with bad eyesight." Lin Yi walked over with Tang Yun and Xiaofan and said to Kong Xiaobo, "This is our Kong family's matter. Who are you to say anything?" Dr. Kong was already furious when Lin Yi exposed the ginseng. He didn't hold back when he saw Lin Yi getting involved in his family's matter. Chapter 377. Being a supporting character, Mr. Lin. Lu Qianni couldn't believe his eyes. Lin Yi was at the banquet, and it seemed like he was on Kong Xiaobo's side. Lu Qianni made his decision without hesitation. He would stand on Lin Yi's side. He had to explain to Lin Yi that he was only attending Dr. Kang's birthday banquet as a show of respect. "Mr. Lin, why are you here?" "I'm so sorry. I didn't see you earlier." Qianni took a few steps to Lin Yi's side and spoke respectfully under everyone's shocked gazes. Lu Qianni didn't even need to think about the choice between Lin Yi and Dr. Kong to maximize the benefits of the Lu family, especially after hearing that Lin Yi had the intention of launching the Miracle Dr. Guan brand with him. Lu Qianni was even more dismissive of Dr. Kong. "What kind of miracle doctor are you? All you have is a golden creation. Lin Yi is the miracle doctor." "Haha, I'm here with my classmate." Lin Yi shrugged and smiled. "Looks like some people aren't interested in my pills. I should have given them to you if I knew this would happen." "Is that so? That's great. Anything else?" Lu Qianni was flattered by Lin Yi's words. He never doubted Lin Yi's pills. He'd even believed Lin Yi when he said he could bring the dead back to life. He'd seen his father's condition firsthand. He'd gone from an old man to a man in his prime. He'd even started a vegetable garden recently. Lu Qianni was happy to see this change. Of course, the person he was most grateful for was Lin Yi. The 100 million was worth it. "Looks like I have to continue befriending Lin Yi in the future. I don't have any at the moment. This was given to me by an expert." Lin Yi shook his head. "If I have any, I'll give you one." "All right. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Thank you, Mr. Lin." Don't worry, I'm not the kind of person who takes things for free. As long as you have this kind of elixir, let alone 100 million, I'll even give you 200 million. Lu Qianni said repeatedly. Although his father's body was fine, it was good to have an elixir at home. He wasn't young anymore. Maybe he could use it one day. Everyone present, including Dr. Kong, was dumbfounded by Lu Qianni's words. The pill that was crushed by Kong Mingming was worth 200 million yuan? Is it made of diamond? If these people didn't know Lu Qianni and knew his identity, they might have thought that it was Kong Xiaobo who hired someone to help him fake the elixir. But who was Lu Qianni? Did he need to help others fake the elixir? Besides, not to mention Kong Xiaobo, even Dr. Kong couldn't get Lu Qianni to fake the elixir. Xiao Yi, why didn't you give me one of those elixirs? It's such a shame that it's ruined for no reason. Just when everyone was shocked, something even more shocking happened. Guan Shuimin stood up and walked over with a smile. He patted Lin Yi's shoulder. Dr. Kang's expression changed again. Could it be that the elixir was real? Otherwise, why would Guan Shuimin say that? Although Dr. Kong felt that Guan Shuimin didn't make as much money as him, Guan Shuimin's medical skills were better than his. Grandpa Guan, Mr. Lu were leaving. What about you guys? Lin Yi asked with a smile. I still have something to talk to you about. Of course, I'm going back with you. Guan Shuimin knew what Lin Yi meant. He smiled. After the medical company was built, he would have to fight with Dr. Kong. For the market, he didn't care about his reputation. There's no point in staying here. Why don't we accompany Mr. Lin? Lu Qianni expressed his loyalty. He knew how important a miracle doctor was to a family, and it was a miracle doctor who could bring the dying back to life. So Lu Qianni had already put down his pride. What was the use of having more money and power in his hands? Wouldn't he lose everything if he died? But with a friend like Lin Yi, it was equivalent to having an exemption from death. Lu Qianni wasn't stupid. Kong Xiaobo's father wanted to stand up and scold his son. What kind of friend did he find to mess around at the banquet? But at this moment, there was only excitement left in his heart. His son's classmate was so capable. House Lu's Lu Qianni and Guan Shuimin were very friendly to him. This made Dr. Kang's reputation fall to the bottom. Lin Yi turned around and looked at Kong Xiaobo indifferently. If you're a man, hold Xiao Fen's hand and prove it to them. This was a good opportunity for Kong Xiaobo. If he forced him to acknowledge Xiao Fen as his girlfriend, then even if Kong Xiaobo's parents were unwilling, they couldn't do anything about it. Lin Yi had already set a good start for him. Now that everyone was on his side, if Kong Xiaobo held Xiao Fen's hand and announced something to Kong Mingming, he wouldn't receive disdain from the crowd, but shock. Kong Xiaobo nodded and held Xiao Fen's hand. He puffed out his chest and looked at Kong Mingming. Second cousin, I'll return the damage you've done to Xiao Fen one day. Who the hell are you? Don't think that just because your friend knows a few people, you're someone too. Kong Mingming might be arrogant and despotic, but he wasn't an idiot. When he saw how Lu Qianni and Guan Shuimin were chasing after the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, he knew that he was in trouble. That pill might really be the real deal. He didn't know where the brat beside Kong Xiaobo got it from, but no matter what, he still crushed it. Therefore, Kong Mingming was obviously trying to be tough on the outside, afraid that others would blame him. So he shifted his target to Kong Xiaobo. Kong Xiaobo ignored him and turned to look at his second grandfather, saying with disappointment, Dr. Kong? Huh? I'm not worthy of you. Someone else gave you a fake ginseng and a fake prescription, and you happily accepted it. I sincerely gave you a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, but you treated it like trash. Ha ha, it's fine if I don't enter this house. After saying that, Kong Xiaobo held Xiao Fen's hand and walked out of the banquet hall. Lin Yi had already laid the groundwork for him. If Kong Xiaobo didn't have the courage to stand up and say these words, then he'd really be a coward. Lin Yi held Tang Yin's hand and followed behind Kong Xiaobo. Today, he appeared as a side character, and the main character was still Kong Xiaobo. Seeing Kong Xiaobo and Lin Yi's silhouettes getting smaller and smaller, Dr. Kong knew that today's banquet was destined to become a farce. "Where's the pill?" Dr. Kong wasn't in a good mood, so he could only vent his anger on Kong Mingming. The pill. Kong Mingming's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the spot where he'd stepped on the pill. Chapter 378. Meeting a fatty, however. Just as Lin Yi was about to walk out of the banquet hall, something unexpected happened again. Lin Yi had just reached the entrance of the banquet hall when Yishuan followed a middle-aged man into the hall in a hurry. The middle-aged man was the owner of Moon on the Sea, President Tian. He and Yishuan were supposed to celebrate Dr. Kang's birthday, and since they were holding a birthday banquet in his territory, he had to be there as the owner to give his blessings. But, to his surprise, people were already leaving the banquet hall. Hadn't the banquet just started? The dishes hadn't even been served yet, so why were people leaving already? Just when Mr. Tian was confused, Li Yishuan reminded him in a small voice, "Mr. Tian, this is Mr. Lin Yi." "Ah." President Tian froze and looked at Lin Yi carefully. Sure enough, he was the same as the photo in the file. He hadn't noticed before, but after Yishuan's reminder, he immediately greeted him with a kind smile. "Young Master Lin, you're leaving?" "Hee. Uncle Tian, right?" Lin Yi saw him walk over with Yishuan, and guessed who he was. "I'm just accompanying a classmate to his second grandpa's birthday banquet. I've already given him the gift, but he didn't like it, so there's no need for us to stay and embarrass ourselves." President Tian frowned. Young Master Lin's gift didn't catch his eye. Wasn't that suicidal? However, he didn't know if Lin Yi was on a mission or not, so he didn't dare say anything. He could only nod. "Do you need me to send someone to escort you?" "No need. We'll leave on our own." Lin Yi waved his hand and smiled. "All right, call me if there's anything. You can also look for Shaoli." President Tian nodded. The scene at the entrance was witnessed by all the guests, causing them to be even more shocked. President Tian of Moon on the Sea was a celebrity in the upper class of Donghai City, and yet he was so polite to Lin Yi. Who exactly was this Lin Yi? Was he a young master from a rich family? From the looks of it, it should be. Dr. Kong had the worst expression on his face. He had never expected that Kong Xiaobo's classmate would be someone with a high status. If he had known that Lin Yi was a rich second generation, he wouldn't have let Kong Mingming crush the pill. The pills seemed to be real. Phew! After walking out of the banquet hall, Kong Xiaobo let out a long sigh and clenched his fists in excitement. "Boss, this is the first time I've felt so proud. Look at my second grandpa and Kong Mingming's faces. They're all twisted. Right now, they were probably regretting to death that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had been crushed by Kong Mingming. That idiot is going to be in trouble when he gets home." Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. At the very least, Kong Xiaobo had taken the first step today, making him a man of indomitable spirit. Yeah, it's such a pity. If I'd known that Mr. Lin was the one who provided the pill, I'd have gone up to the stage and snatched it even if I'd been laughed at. Tianyi said regretfully, "What a waste of a treasure." Xiaofan was worried that she would be humiliated by Kong Mingming's family, but now she understood that she could also stand on a high ground and look down on the Kong family. Just now, when Kong Xiaobo said those words in a cold voice, when he said that he wanted Kong Mingming to return the harm he had done to her, Xiaofan was so emotional. As for Kong Mingming, his eyes were flickering, and he didn't even dare to speak. "Thank you, Xiaobo." Xiaofan turned to look at Lin Yi. "Thank you, Xiaobo's boss." What's the point of saying all these?" Lin Yi waved his hand. "We're on the same side. Xiaobo, I'm going to give you a stage to show off. I'm going to let you stand at the same height as Dr. Kong, or even surpass him." Really? Kong Xiaobo was stunned, and his eyes shone with hope. He never doubted Lin Yi's words. This was just to express the surprise in his heart. Boss, thank you. Don't worry, I won't let you down. Just when Kong Xiaobo was extremely excited, a fatty ran out of the banquet hall, panting as he ran. As he ran, he said, little bro, wait for me. Linny looked at the panting fatty and was confused. Who are you calling? I'm calling you, little bro. The fatty ran to Lin Yi and kneeled in front of Lin Yi. Little bro, please sell me one of that pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. I'm willing to pay any price. 100 million? No, 500 million is fine too. Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at the fatty. Was there something wrong with this guy? Running out to buy a pill from him? Did he really believe it? Little bro, I'm begging you. Seeing that Lin Yi wasn't answering, the fatty suddenly hugged Lin Yi's leg and started sobbing. Sell me one. I'm willing to pay any price. As long as you're willing to sell it to me, you'll be Fatty Lie's savior. I'm begging you. I'm gonna faint. Don't cry first. Lin Yi was a little dumbfounded. He'd wanted to move the fatty away and ignore him, but he didn't expect the guy to start crying like that, not to mention in such a heartbreaking manner. A grown man crying in front of him, Lin Yi really didn't know what to say. Little bro, if you promise me, I'll stop crying. Fatty Lie woke up, snot dripping onto Lin Yi's pants. Lin Yi felt a chill run down his spine. Then cry yourself to death. Lin Yi was speechless. Then if I stop crying, you'll sell it to me? Fatty Lie asked, quickly stopping his crying. Old Lie, what are you doing? If you have something to say, just say it. Look at you making a fool out of yourself. Lu Qianni spoke up. Evidently, he knew the fatty. Old Lu, don't you feel pain in your back? You're so happy that your dad's cured, but my old man's still lying on the sickbed. Sob, sob. Fatty Lie started sobbing again. I told you to tell me the miracle doctor who treated your dad, but you kept it a secret. If I don't fight for it now, I'll lose my chance again. You old fox. Lin Yi understood now. This guy had a sick dad too. He knew Lu Qianni, and he knew that Lu Qianni's dad was cured, so he paid attention to it. He might have asked Lu Qianni before, but Lu Qianni didn't dare tell anyone about him without his permission. So Fatty Lie still held a grudge against Lu Qianni. Chapter 379. Grab, rubbish, bro. I'm not crying anymore. Can you sell me one? Fatty Lie ignored Lu Qianni and looked at Lin Yi while wiping his tears. Not for sale. Lin Yi shook his head. Why? Sob, sob. Bro, I have money. I have money. I have money. Whatever that old fox Lu Qianni can spend, I can too. I can spend even more than him. Fatty Lie cried again. Lin Yi was a little depressed. Why did this fatty love to cry so much? A crybaby? He helplessly explained. I only have this one. I don't have any more now. If that's the case, then when will you have it? Fatty Lie's face turned dejected. Just one? No more? I'm not sure. Lin Yi didn't know Fatty Lie at all, so he wouldn't just give him a random pill. The few elixirs in his hands were meant to be given out when the company opened for business as a gift to boost the company's reputation. Of course, Lin Yi wouldn't waste them. Fatty Lie was a crybaby, and he seemed like a filial son, but there were too many filial crybabies out there. Every single one of them would run up to him with tears and snot all over their faces, asking for pills. Even if he didn't tire himself to death for finding pills, he'd still be annoyed to death by them. Therefore, this precedent could not be broken. He would never give it to someone he wasn't familiar with. Ah, I see. Sob, sob, sob. Fatty Lie started bawling again when he heard Lin Yi's words. Dr. Kong, that unfilial bastard, that bastard, what a waste of a heavenly gift. Mother ***. Lin Yi sympathized with Fatty Lie's situation, but he couldn't just give him a pill out of sympathy, could he? Lin E wasn't a charity organization. After all, at that moment, a cleaner walked over with a trash bag, ready to throw it into the trash can of the resort. Fatty Lie's eyes were sharp, and he recognized the cleaner right away. It was the one who cleaned the pill that Kong Xiaoming had crushed in the banquet hall. He jumped up from the ground and ran to the cleaner's side. "Don't throw it away. Just give me the trash bag." The cleaner was startled and was at a loss of what to do. She looked at the fatty, whose face was still full of tears in horror. You, what do you want?" Fatty Lie didn't want to drag this on any longer, so he didn't bother explaining and grabbed the trash bag from the cleaner's hands. He'd have screamed robbery if it weren't for the trash in the bag. But because the garbage bag was filled with useless trash, the cleaner didn't even fight with Fatty Lie when he saw him snatching it like a madman. He let go and ran away in fright. Who would fight with a madman like him over a trash bag? The cleaner thought that this fatty dressed like a dog, but he was actually a madman. It seemed like he had to stay away from him. Fatty Lie ignored the cleaner. He didn't care what the cleaner thought. Finding the pill that Kong Xiaoming crushed was the most important thing. Lin E, Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, Fun, and even Lu Qianni looked at the crazy Fatty Lie in shock. They didn't know what he was trying to do. "Old Lie, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?" Lu Qianni had a small conflict with Fatty Lie, but their relationship wasn't bad. He quickly reminded Fatty Lie when he saw him acting so shamelessly. If his business rivals saw this and filmed it, wouldn't they laugh at him? But Fatty Lie didn't seem to hear Lu Qianni's words at all. He opened the trash bag in his hand and took out the things inside and threw them into the trash can. There were lunch boxes, instant noodle buckets, toilet paper with snot on it, chewed bubble gum, disposable chopsticks, and everything. There were even flies and mosquitoes flying out. Lu Qianni felt disgusted. Was this Fatty Lie crazy? What was he doing? "Shut up. I want to find the pill that was crushed by that wastrel." Fatty Lie roared as he searched the trash bag for something. "Forget it. Let him look for it. It would be his fortune if he could find it." Linny shook his head. Although it was crushed by Kong Ming, the effect was the same. Lu Qianni was shocked. He didn't expect Fatty Lie to come up with this idea. He wanted to find the pill that Kong Ming crushed. "Found it! Found it!" Fatty Lie pulled out a black ball from the trash bag and held it in his hands excitedly, as if he'd found a treasure. "Great! I finally found it! Ha ha! Ha ha! Congratulations, Brother Lie!" Lu Qianni walked over and patted Fatty Lie's shoulder. "Get lost!" Fatty Lie glared at Lu Qianni. "Don't you dare take my pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. I'm not giving it to you. I'm not taking it." Lu Qianni knew that he didn't tell Fatty Lie about Lin E. Fatty Lie was a little unhappy, but he couldn't blame Lu Qianni. Without Lin Yi's permission, he wouldn't dare say anything about Lin E. Why is this pill so big? I didn't see it this big before." Fatty Lie suddenly ran over with the black ball in his hands. "Bro, can you help me take a look? Is this it? Why is there a stench? Is this pill smelly? Is good medicine bitter?" Linny glanced at the black ball in Fatty Lie's hands and dodged to the back. Tang Yun wanted to go over to take a look, but Linny pulled her back. "What's wrong?" Tang Yun was curious why Lin E didn't let her go over. "It's this pill, but it's stuck together with a ball of dog poop." Linny said to Fatty Lie, "Dig out the light-colored thing on the left. That's dog poop. That's why it smells." "Ah." Fatty Lie's eyes widened, sweating profusely. Dog poop, however. Fatty Lie gritted his teeth. Even if there was dog poop on it, he had to dig it out. Lu Qianni couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Dog poop on it? This Fatty Lie sure was unlucky, but Fatty Lie didn't think so. In fact, he felt lucky. So what if it was dog poop? It was already good enough that he could find it. It didn't matter if it was dog poop on it. Fatty Lie carefully dug out the side without dog poop. He didn't dig it out completely, and there was still some dog poop stuck on it. But Fatty Lie didn't dare dig anymore. He couldn't let his dad eat dog poop, could he? Chapter 380. Go get it. Lin-E thought to himself that Fatty Lie was a rich man. These cigars were obviously expensive, but he threw them away just like that. The cost of one pill wasn't even as much as one of his cigars. Fatty Lie, on the other hand, didn't think so. He treated it like a treasure. And in his eyes, he wouldn't sell it even if he offered it to Lin-E for 500 million, let alone 100 million. It was a priceless treasure. As the saying goes, 1,000 gold can't buy 10 years of youth. If his father could live for another 10 years after eating this pill, it would be a priceless treasure. However, this pill seemed to be a lot less than before. Would it still be effective? At the thought, Fatty Lie quickly asked, Bro, this pill is much smaller than before. Will it still work? The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had been stomped on by Kong Ming Ming, and quite a bit of it was stuck to the floor. Only a small amount was left after sweeping it up, and the rest was wiped away by the cleaner with a mop. A little. It's hard to say for 5 or 10 years, but it's still possible for him to live for another 1 or 2 years. Linny said, It depends on your father's condition and how much poison is in his body. My dad has uremia. Can he detoxify it? Fatty Lie was afraid that Lin-E would ignore him. Now that he saw Lin-E asking him a question, he quickly went along with it. If he could get Lin-Yi's guidance, he'd be so happy he'd go crazy. Yes, it's a little effective. It won't be a problem to hold out for another year or so, Lin-E said. Ugh, can it be cured? Fatty Lie asked quickly. Maybe after eating 10 or 20, right? I can't say for sure. Lin-E did not lie to him. How could uremia be so easily treated? Only the combination of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine could cure it. Bro, can you cure my father? I'll follow you for the rest of my life. I'll do anything for you, no matter how much money you spend. I'm willing. Fatty Lie knelt in front of Lin-E again. This time, not only was his snot all over Lin-Yi's pants, but the hand that had grabbed dog poop earlier was also grabbing onto Lin-Yi's pants tightly. Let go of me first. Lin-E thought to himself, I'll throw these pants away when I get home. I can't keep them anymore. Then you'll treat me? Fatty Lie was overjoyed after hearing Lin-Yi's words. Get up right now and get the fuck back home. Give that to your old man to eat first. He won't die so soon. Lin-E said helplessly, Let me think about it first, then we'll talk about it. Speaking of which, you seem to have some face. A celebrity? All right, I'll go back immediately. Fatty Lie nodded quickly. I have a bit of a reputation in the business world. Bro, what's up? Nothing much. I'll start a company in a few days, and you can come and support me when it opens. I'll give you a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing too. Lin-E nodded. Are you free? If not, then forget it. Yes, yes, yes. Fatty Lie said the word yes 3 times in a row, afraid that Lin-E wouldn't hear him clearly and cross him off the invitation list. He was so excited he almost fainted. I'll be your follower. Don't worry, I might be fat, but I have strength. I'm good at running errands. Then go. Get my number from Mr. Liu. Lin-E was at his wits' end from Fatty Lie's pestering. He had no choice but to give him a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Giving it to someone else to experiment with was no different than giving it to the fatty. All right. Fatty Lie nodded, satisfied, and respectfully sent Lin-E off to a shabby van. Fatty Lie thought to himself, So Lin-E likes this kind of car? I'll get a new one tomorrow, just like him. That's the only way to show that I'm a good follower. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet was still going on and the guests were all smiles, but Dr. Kong couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with the atmosphere. He looked at Kong Ming Ming standing at the side, and it reminded him of what happened earlier. After the guests finished giving their gifts, Dr. Kong waved at Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming quickly ran over. He knew that he'd gotten into trouble, and the situation was clear. Lin Yi was a young master, and he didn't know how Kong Xiaobo knew this person, but Lin Yi's identity was definitely not simple. From the attitude of Director Tian, Lu Qianni, and Guan Shuamin towards Lin Yi was definitely not simple, and that so-called pill of life extension and toxin cleansing might be real as well. Perhaps it was some kind of rare treasure from somewhere, but Kong Ming Ming treated it like trash and stomped on it. Grandpa, Kong Ming Ming walked over carefully, his hatred for Kong Xiaobo deepening by another level. Why didn't you say so earlier that you got to know such a powerful boss? You've made a fool out of me. Go look for the cleaner just now and find that so-called pill of life extension and toxin cleansing he swept away. How could Dr. Kong not understand something that even Kong Xiaobo understood? He also felt that if the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was real, it would be a waste to throw it away. However, he couldn't let outsiders see it and lose face, so he reminded, "Be careful, don't let others see it." Got it, Grandpa? Kong Ming Ming saw that there was still a chance to salvage the situation, so he quickly nodded and followed his grandfather's instructions. Kong Ming Ming quickly walked out of the banquet hall when no one was paying attention. In reality, he was like an insignificant clown, so no one paid any attention to him. As soon as Kong Ming Ming walked out of the banquet hall, he bumped into the cleaner who had just been cleaning. He quickly ran over. "Annie, can I ask you something? Where did you throw the rubbish you just swept away?" Kong Ming Ming had a favor to ask of the cleaner, so he had to change his attitude. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done this under normal circumstances. "The rubbish bin outside, but..." Before the cleaner could finish her sentence, Kong Ming Ming turned and ran. The cleaner shook her head. She wanted to remind him that there was still a fat man snatching the rubbish from the rubbish bin, but Kong Ming Ming was too anxious and didn't hear the latter part of her sentence. Kong Ming Ming was afraid that the rubbish in the rubbish bin had been taken away, so after hearing the cleaner's words, he quickly ran out. When he reached the entrance of the banquet hall, he saw an open rubbish bag beside the rubbish bin. Kong Ming Ming was shocked. It couldn't have been stolen, right? But then he remembered that near hotels and resorts, there were always people who liked to scavenge through rubbish bins to pick out drinks and bottles that could be sold for money. No one should know what that lousy pill was, right? However, Kong Ming Ming didn't dare to delay. He quickly ran over and picked up the rubbish bag, then rummaged through it. Chapter 381. Finally found Ida. Wave of stench assaulted Kong Ming Ming's face. Kong Ming Ming nearly puked. "What the hell is this thing? Why is it so smelly?" Kong Ming Ming had thought that it was the stench of the trash bag in his hand, so he quickly tossed it aside and stood up, but it was still smelly after he stood up. Kong Ming Ming looked around and realized that the stench was coming from the pill in his hand. Why does this pill smell like this? Kong Ming Ming's stomach churned. Wasn't this a little too smelly? Had it been like this before? But Kong Ming Ming thought about it for a long time and couldn't figure out if the pill had been smelly or not when he'd stepped on it. He'd been too excited at the time, and he'd only been focused on mocking Kong Xiaobo. How could he have had the time to care about whether the pill smelled good or bad? That's probably it. Kong Ming Ming nodded in self-consolation. The color of the dog poop was just too similar to the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Kong Ming Ming had only taken a look at it in his hand before stepping on it, so he couldn't remember the color. Kong Ming Ming hurriedly and carefully held the dog poop in his hand. After making sure that no one was paying attention, he carefully ran back into the banquet hall. As soon as he entered, he saw his grandfather, Dr. Kang's inquiring gaze. Kong Ming Ming quickly nodded to him, indicating that he'd found the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Dr. Kong breathed a sigh of relief. If it really was a treasure, then it would have been a waste to throw it away. He had to give Lu Qianni a call tonight to see if there really was such a thing. Lu Qianni wanted to invite Lin Yi to sit in his car, but when he saw that Lin Yi drove his own car, he had to give up. Lin Yi drove Tang Yun, Kong Xiaobo, Xiao Fun, and Guan Shuimin back to Songsan. He sent Tang Yun back to the hospital and Xiao Fun back home before bringing Kong Xiaobo to Guan Shuimin's house for a discussion. Kong Xiaobo originally wanted to accompany Xiao Fun. He was afraid that Xiao Fun would be in a bad mood after seeing Kong Ming Ming today. But when Xiao Fun heard Lin Yi calling Kong Xiaobo for something important, why would she waste his time? He shook his head at Kong Xiaobo and smiled. Xiaobo, Brother Lin Yi is looking for you, for something serious. You don't have to accompany me. I'm fine. I'm feeling much better now. Are you really fine? Kong Xiaobo was still worried. After all, he was hurt so deeply by Kong Ming Ming. How could he be fine just like that? Ha ha, I'm waiting for you to take revenge for me one day. Xiao Fun smiled. I'll remember what you said today. All right, wait for me. I'll definitely do it. Kong Xiaobo clenched his fist. Lin Yi smiled. He gave Kong Xiaobo a stage to show off, but he needed Kong Xiaobo to be willing. If Kong Xiaobo was sloppy, even if he became a spokesperson, he would only be a role to supervise others. But if he was filled with fighting spirit, it would be different. As long as he had the intention, he would work hard and succeed sooner or later. As long as he had the confidence and dreams, he would definitely achieve it. Tang Yun, I won't be going up. Grandpa Guan already told me about your father's surgery. I can't do anything about the bone problem, but after he's done with the surgery, I have some medicine that can quickly heal his wound. Lin Yi said to Tang Yun when she was about to get off the car, I'll send it to you on Monday. I didn't bring it with me today. And thank you. Tang Yun nodded and didn't refuse. She didn't know when it started, but she gradually got used to Lin Yi's care and care for her. After Tang Yun got off the car, Kong Xiaobo couldn't help but ask, Boss, are you talking about the medicine similar to my second grandpa's golden creation medicine? In the market, only Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine could quickly heal a wound. No wonder Kong Xiaobo was surprised. He didn't expect Lin Yi to have this kind of medicine in his hands. Haha, it should be similar. I haven't seen his formula before, so I can't say for sure, but the effect should be similar. Lin Yi nodded. Kong Xiaobo was shocked. At this moment, he finally understood why Lin Yi was so confident in supporting him to break with Kong Ming Ming and his second grandpa's family. When Lin Yi said that he could let him be on the same level as his second grandpa, Kong Xiaobo didn't really believe it, but for the sake of his face, he said it boldly. At first, Kong Xiaobo was a little nervous, not knowing if his bold words would become a joke, but now he knew that it wouldn't. If Lin Yi also had a formula similar to golden creation, then he was completely qualified to be on the same level as his second grandpa. Dr. Kang's medical company only made money from golden creation. Boss, you are really amazing. Where did you get the formula? My second grandpa hid the formula so well that even my grandpa didn't know. Kong Xiaobo said and sighed. My grandpa is also stupid. He didn't know where the formula was, and my second grandpa stole it. I made it myself. Lin Yi shrugged. Kong Xiaobo was going to be his spokesperson soon, so it was fine to let him know some core secrets. You made it yourself? Kong Xiaobo was so shocked that his eyes widened. Lin Yi can make such a formula himself? How amazing is that? All right, it's good that you know. Don't tell anyone. Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. I have some personal reasons, and I don't want to stand out. So, this company belongs to you and Grandpa Guan to the outside world. Don't worry, boss. I won't tell anyone. When Kong Xiaobo heard that Lin Yi trusted him as a spokesperson, He was immediately touched. He nodded and said, "Xiaofan, and I won't tell anyone." This can be said. Lin Yi sweated. "Xiaofan's leg, I have to solve it sooner or later, so it's fine to tell her." "It's fine as long as a small group of people know." "Boss, I just realized that the wisest decision I've ever made in my life was that day when I decided to help you fight on the rooftop." Xiaobo sighed. "You wouldn't be taking care of me like this if I hadn't done it on impulse." Kong Xiaobo still had some self-awareness. He knew that he was useless. In Lin Yi's eyes, he couldn't help at all. If there was something that could make Lin Yi look up to him, it was that time. However, what Kong Xiaobo said was really true. It was indeed because Kong Xiaobo could stand out in a hot-headed manner that Lin Yi regarded Kong Xiaobo as a brother. Chapter 382. Go call and ask with the incident with Kong Xiaobo and Kong Mingming's incident. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet ended hastily at noon. The atmosphere was good, but there was an indescribable sense of oppression. It was the same for both the host and the guests. Dr. Kong didn't give Kong Xiaobo's parents a good look. Kong Xiaobo's parents couldn't do anything about it. While Kong Xiaobo's incident had caused quite a commotion, Kong Xiaobo's parents knew that it wasn't Kong Xiaobo's fault. Kong Xiaobo had given his second grandpa a huge gift, a precious pill. It was done out of kindness, but Kong Mingming didn't appreciate it and crushed the pill without any hesitation. And Dr. Kong didn't stop him after seeing it. That was the problem. Miracle Dr. Kong, from the bottom of his heart, felt a great distance between Xiaoming and Xiaobo, his own grandson and his cousin. No matter how much Kong Mingming had gone overboard, he was still his grandson. He could tolerate it, but Kong Xiaobo hadn't done anything wrong yet. He only suspected that Kong Xiaobo had brought a fake pill to take advantage of his title as a miracle doctor, and yet he allowed Kong Mingming to do something so disrespectful. Even if Kong Mingming's words were a little overboard, it was understandable. He was a boy, after all, and it was impossible for him to not be impulsive. So, Kong Xiaobo's parents were very understanding. What made them happier was that Kong Xiaobo's good friend seemed to be very powerful. So many big shots knew him and were very friendly to him. That meant that Kong Xiaobo wouldn't be at a disadvantage if he followed him. So, even though Kong Xiaobo's parents were treated coldly and disdainfully by Dr. Kang's family, they still felt a little comforted. Dr. Kang's family didn't like them either. After the banquet, Kong Xiaobo's parents left without even greeting them. It was clear that Dr. Kang's family was furious about the humiliation earlier. "If you ask me, what kind of relatives do you have? It's fine if they don't help us after they become rich, and we don't mind that. But what's the meaning of this?" Kong Mu wasn't a member of the Kong family and was extremely displeased by what happened today. "Don't talk to relatives like this. Forget it. If it wasn't for Dad asking me to come, I wouldn't have come." Father Kong smiled bitterly. "But your son really made my second Uncle lose face today." "Humph, my son? Isn't he your son?" Kong Mu couldn't help but be proud when she mentioned her son. "You see how loyal my son's friends are. They aren't even relatives yet, but they can speak up for him. They also know many powerful big shots. Look at your cousins. What are they? Right, the girl that my son pulled today. Why is she a little lame?" And what Kong Mingming said. Kung Fu was a little embarrassed. He didn't want to talk about his family anymore. No matter what, he was the second uncle who was related by blood. Chapter 383. See the results so. "It's you, Guifeng bro. I had something urgent to attend to today, so I had to leave at the last minute. I'm very sorry about that," Lu Qianni said, but he didn't have any intention of apologizing at all. Kong Guifeng was a little displeased, but there was nothing he could do about it. After all, he still had to rely on Lu Qianni for his military medicine orders. Haha, it's fine, it's fine. Kong Guifeng, however, smiled nonchalantly. Right, Brother Qianni, let me ask you something. Do you know my nephew's classmate today? Oh, you're talking about Mr. Lin? Of course I know him. Lu Qianni laughed. Oh, his family. Kong Guifeng wanted to talk about Lin Yi's background. Haha, he's amazing, isn't he? I say, Brother Guifeng, why are you asking this? Lu Qianni asked faintly. It's nothing. I'm just curious about the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing he gave me today. Brother Qianni, you seem to know a bit about it. Kong Guifeng probed. That? Haha, it's a good thing. Lu Qianni could more or less guess what Lin Yi was trying to say. He wanted Dr. Kang's family to regret it, so he didn't mind revealing something that would make them regret it. But he wouldn't say a word about the real thing. Good thing? Does that mean you know something about it, Brother Qianni? Kong Guifeng's heart skipped a beat. There was no need for Lu Qianni to lie to him about something like this. Who was Lu Qianni? He was a member of the Lius. Even if he was close to Lin Yi, there was no way he'd help Lin Yi lie, was there? And so, Kong Guifeng had a vague feeling that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing really was a good thing. Of course, while Kong Guifeng didn't think he was wrong, his guess was a bit off. If Lin Yi had asked Lu Qianni to lie for him, Lu Qianni would have nodded without hesitation. Haha, let's not talk about that. I can't talk about that. Lu Qianni laughed again. Right, Brother Guifeng, I'm going back to send the old man back to Yanjing. HM? Qianni brother, Elder Lu, isn't he here to see Miracle Doctor? Why did you go back? Guifeng paused. Haha, he's feeling better now. I even got him a courtyard house to grow vegetables in. Qianni said with a smile. It's done? Guifeng was shocked. Didn't Miracle Dr. Guan say that only long-term acupuncture would work? Hee hee. How could I use the old man's body as a joke? If not, I wouldn't dare to send him back. Lu Qianni smiled and said, Well, let's not talk about this first. The old man asked me to accompany him to dance on the dance carpet. Huh? Kong Guifeng almost thought that there was something wrong with his ears. Dance on the dance mat? Old Lucian who could still play on a dance mat? Even walking would be a problem, right? However, before Kong Guifeng could ask, the phone was hung up. Kong Guifeng sighed and walked back with a gloomy face. How is it? Dr. Kong saw that his son's complexion was a little abnormal, and his heart tightened as he asked hurriedly. I didn't get any answers, but it seems like it's really something good. Kong Guifeng said in a deep voice, but I got an important piece of news. Lu Qianni's father, Elder Lu, has miraculously recovered and can even play on the dance carpet. What? Dr. Kang's heart almost exploded when he heard his son's words. You're saying that 90-year-old man can play on the dance mat? Really? Dr. Kong had seen Jinhu's condition before. He was so sick that even walking was difficult, but now he could play on the dance mat. His eyebrows twitched as a bad thought crossed his mind. Could it have something to do with the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? I'm guessing so. There's an 80% chance that it's related. Why else would that old fox Lu Qianni bring this up all of a sudden? Kong Guifeng nodded. That pill of life extension and toxin cleansing might really be something good. I just don't know where Kong Xiaobo's friend got it from. That guy looks like the son of a rich family, so it's not surprising that he could get his hands on some rare items. But this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, is it really the real deal? Dr. Kong picked up the dog poop in his hand in disbelief. How can it work when it's so smelly? Grandpa, as the saying goes, good medicine tastes bitter. I don't think there's any truth to that. Kong Ming had thought of this before, so he decided to show it off now. He wanted to make up for his mistake, so he tried his best to make himself seem more important. Xiaoming's right. Good medicine tastes bitter. Dr. Kong nodded in agreement, but what you hear from others is just hearsay. You have to verify it yourself to see it for yourself. Grandpa, you mean, Kong Ming Ming asked, how about this? Cut this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing in half, then swallow it. See if it has any effects. Dr. Kong hesitated for a moment before speaking to Kong Ming Ming. Ah, me? Kong Ming Ming thought his grandpa was going to take it himself. He didn't expect it to be him. Why, you don't want to live longer? Dr. Kong glanced at Kong Ming Ming. Dr. Kong didn't dare to take it himself. After all, he was old and couldn't handle the torment. But Kong Ming Ming was fine. It's not that Kong Xiaoming was a little timid. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was supposed to be a good item, but it was just a guess from his family. He didn't dare eat it without a definite conclusion. You're afraid it's poisonous? Miracle Dr. Kong, humph. Idiot, no matter how stupid Xiaobo is, there's no way he'd send a poison pill over. That's murder in front of everyone's eyes. You'd have to spend eternity in jail. Even if this pill isn't the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, it won't have any side effects. Dad, why don't I try it? Kong Tsuepu hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. Kong Ming Ming was his son. How could he let his son eat something so strange? In the Kong family, Elder Kong was the most important person. Big brother Kong Guifeng and nephew Kong Xiaolong were the most important. On the other hand, he and his son weren't as important. Something like this could only fall to him. The problem was that only the core members of the Kong family knew about this. They couldn't let outsiders try it. If word got out and the great Dr. Kang's family picked up the crushed pill and ate it, wouldn't they laugh their heads off? Chapter 384. Chapter 384. Unexpected call. Let me do it. Kong Ming Ming realized that his grandfather's words made sense. He'd been too cautious before, and now that he thought about it, Kong Xiaobo wouldn't send poison over unless he was an idiot. Sending poison was suicide. If something happened to Dr. Kang's family, he'd be the first suspect. And so Kong Ming Ming decided to try it himself. He couldn't let it spoil him, even if he didn't like it. Letting his father eat, it would only make his grandfather look down on him. Kong Xiaobo gritted his teeth and voiced his decision. Kong Ming Ming's words surprised Dr. Kong a bit. He didn't think that this cowardly grandson of his would be willing to try the medicine on his own. Thus, he said happily, "Good. Xiaoming, Grandpa didn't think that there would be a day when you'd grow up. Don't worry, once we figure out how to make this pill, I'll give you a share of the profits." Kong Ming Ming was overjoyed. If this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was a success, the profits wouldn't be any less than the golden creation. It was a great thing for him to be able to own a share of the company. In the third generation of House Kong, even the outstanding Kong Xiaolong didn't have a share. Kong Ming Ming was overjoyed at the thought that he'd be the first. Kong Ming Ming's father, Kong Tsuepu, was surprised by his son's courage and insight as well. He didn't think that his son's decision would bring him such great profits and benefits. Even Xiaolong was looking at his brother with jealousy. In House Kong, Kong Ming Ming had always been a cowardly, hedonistic young master, so when he did bad things, everyone was used to it. Today, however, he'd suddenly done something sensible. It was a surprise. And so, in his surprise, Dr. Kong gave Kong Ming Ming this promise. Kong Ming Ming took the dog poop from Dr. Kang's hands and placed it on the table. He cut it open with a sharp knife and picked up half of it, preparing to swallow it. Ugh, it stinks. Kong Ming Ming put it to his mouth, almost dying from disgust. Why does it taste the same as dog poop? It's like you said, good medicine tastes bitter, Kong Tsuepu advised. He was also very excited. If his son took the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing and had an effect, then he would be able to get a share of the company. As a father, he would also be proud. Kong Ming Ming nodded and clenched his teeth. He pinched his nose and closed his eyes, sending half of the dog poop into his mouth. He quickly drank a few mouthfuls of water to suppress the urge to vomit. After a while, he finally caught his breath and let out a long sigh. Phew, I finally ate it. All right, Xiaoming, don't go out for the next few days. Stay at home and see the effects. Miracle, Dr. Kong nodded, turning to Guifeng. Guifeng, seal up the other half of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. If the illumination works, send it to the lab and get the ingredients analyzed. Yes, Kong. Guifeng nodded. Kong Ming felt his stomach churn after eating the dog poop, but he endured the urge to vomit and went back to his room, lying on his bed. It had to be said that Kong Ming was quite lucky. The half of the dog poop he took had some pill of life extension and toxin cleansing left on it. It wasn't completely dog poop. Lin Yi naturally didn't know what happened at the Kangs. If he knew that Kong Ming had picked up the dog poop as the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing and had even eaten half of it, he'd probably be laughing his head off. In Xiumin's house, Lin Yi told Kong Xiaobo about the medical company, but while Kong Xiaobo was excited, he was also worried. After all, he had no experience in business management, though he didn't want to give up this great opportunity. Kong Xiaobo wasn't an idiot. He knew the consequences of messing around. Boss, I don't know anything about business management. You have to let me learn. After the excitement, Kong Xiaobo regained his composure. He was an impulsive person, but after that, he could calmly consider the problem. During the fight on the rooftop and Xiaofin's incident, Kong Xiaobo had displayed his impulsive personality. But after that, he was able to calm down and consider the pros and cons. Kong Xiaobo's words put Lin Yi in a difficult position. Xiumin was a scholar, so he naturally didn't have any experience in business management. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't have any experience in assassination. Now, Kong Xiaobo's words weren't unreasonable. He didn't have any relevant experience either. At that moment, Lin Yi finally understood that some things were too simple. You couldn't start a company just because you had a prescription. However, Lin Yi didn't want him to participate in the operation of the company if he wasn't trustworthy. First of all, Lin Yi was a secret. Lin Yi didn't want to expose himself in front of the public and let everyone know that the prescription came from him. After all, Lin Yi was still in the middle of a mission. It wasn't appropriate for him to be distracted by other things. Literally, my idea is to find a trustworthy professional manager. As for me, I mainly want to be a vice president in name or a director of research and development. I just need to cooperate with the publicity, Xiumin suggested. As for the company, we can let Xiaobo and Xin be the company's directors. They will only participate in the decision-making and not the operation. That's not a bad idea. The key is to find a trustworthy manager. Lin Yi nodded. But this person is not so easy to find. This is urgent. Xiumin shook his head. I'll ask someone else. Just like that, the matter was temporarily put on hold. Lin Yi drove Kong Xiaobo out of Xiumin's villa. He wanted to send him home directly, but Kong Xiaobo said that he wanted to go to a bookstore to buy some business management books. Although it was a bit of a last-minute effort, Lin Yi was glad that Kong Xiaobo had the intention. He was afraid that Kong Xiaobo wouldn't work hard. As long as he was willing to work hard, everything would be fine. Lin Yi sent Xiaobo to the bookstore, but didn't go up with him. He went straight back to Mingyao's villa. It had been 2 days since he left, and he wondered if the miss was still mad at him. He told Mengyao that he'd be accompanying Xiaobo to his second grandpa's birthday banquet, and Mengyao hadn't said anything about it. But who knew if Yushu was trying to drive a wedge between them? When he was almost home, Lin Yi's phone rang. He thought it was Kong Xiaobo or Tang Yun, but when he saw the caller ID, he couldn't help but freeze. Chapter 385. Chapter 385. Wang Xinyan's family. Lin Yi paused. Wasn't Wang Xinyan supposed to go to Yanjing to take care of the funeral? Why was she calling him? Was she back already? It couldn't be. How many days had it been? It hadn't even been a week. Lenny was a bit confused, but he picked up anyway. Hello. But when he picked up the phone, the call was cut off. What was the meaning of this? Did she call the wrong number? Or was it something else? Lenny hesitated for a moment before calling back. It was the first time Sinyan had called him, after all, and he couldn't just ignore it. I'm sorry, the number you have dialed is either powered off or out of service. Please try again later. The robotic voice told Lin E that the other party's phone had been turned off. Lin E frowned. Could it be that Sinyan was about to call him? And her phone ran out of battery? Lin E shook his head and put the phone back in his pocket. There was nothing Lin E could do if he couldn't reach her. He was a little worried, but the two were strangers who'd met by chance, and Sinyan was far away in Yenjing. Lin E didn't even know where she was. In a luxurious mansion in Yenjing, a man with a fierce look on his face snatched Sinyan's phone from her hands and smashed it on the ground, stomping on it a couple of times. Stupid girl, are you trying to call someone over? I didn't think you'd have a phone on you. Good thing I didn't go too far to keep an eye on you. IDV ruined everything. Sinyan looked at the phone that had been stomped on and raised her head coldly. I'm your cousin, and this is how you're going to treat me? Cousin? Humph. Spit out the Shao family's assets first. The man humphed. Grandpa's married you off to someone else in his will. Don't even think about leaving this room before he comes with a betrothal gift. After saying that, the man closed the door with a bang, and then the sound of the door being locked could be heard. Sinyan sighed helplessly. She wouldn't have come back if she'd known that the Shao family was in such dire straits. Not only were her parents under house arrest, but she herself was engaged to a man she didn't even know because of her grandfather's will. It wasn't until she arrived at the Shao family that Sinyan realized that the Shao family wasn't as glamorous as it looked on the outside. The two uncles were fighting over the inheritance, but the Shao family was already strong on the outside. His grandfather had Alzheimer's disease. In the last few years of his life, he signed a few stupid contracts. Not only did he cause the company to lose a lot of money, but he also owed a lot of debt. Even if he sold the company now, it would be enough to pay off the debt. The two uncles, who were originally fighting over the family property, surprisingly united again after finding out the amount of the family property. Now that he couldn't even pay his debts, how could he snatch the family's property? Family matters like this were the hardest to solve. Lin Yi returned to the villa to see Meng Yao and Yushu digging something in the yard, each holding a small shovel. Yushu's face was covered in dirt, and Meng Yao's clothes were a little dusty, but her face wasn't as bad as Yushu's. Lin Yi parked the car in the yard and got out. He looked at the two curiously. Yao, Shu, what are you guys doing? Oh, Shil bro, you're back? We're digging for treasure. Come help me. And Yao, we're so tired. Yushu waved happily at Lin Yi when he came back. Shu, what did you call him for? Meng Yao glared at Yushu and lowered her voice. What if he sees us? Don't you feel embarrassed? That you're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.